Reverend Dr. Harold Carter Jr. was presiding over the service at New Shiloh Baptist Church. It was a very spiritual, it was a very peaceful service. It was a service that had a lot of meaning for the people that were there, but you were right, there wasn't a police presence there. There were no lines of tactical police officers there. It was after the service was over, after the casket was taken to Woodlawn Cemetery for the burial, that we really started to get a sense that something might happen. There might be a powder keg here outside of Mondawmin Mall, and that was exactly the case. The moment Douglas High School let out, it seemed as though this just took over, and at one point rocks were being thrown, bricks were being thrown. In all, 7 police officers right here outside of Mondawmin Mall were injured with broken bones. One of those police officers was non-responsive. We heard Eric Kowalczyk go on from police headquarters calling them violent criminals, lawless individuals with no regard for safety, and he said they would continue to deploy officers and use tear gas or pepper balls and take all the precautions they would have to do to protect the officers, because he said the officers came here to protect the people in this neighborhood around Mondawmin Mall.
Yeah, so much for the family of Freddie Gray asking for peace today as they laid him to rest. Scott, Wykoff reporting live from Mondawmin Mall. We want to help you if you're driving out of downtown, if you're concerned about getting home. We want to get you around the looting and the violence that is happening right now on some of the streets in Baltimore City, and who better to do that than WBAL's Jim Russ. Jim?
Hey there, the surface streets downtown, and I'm located right now, Pratt and Green, are empty. There are very few pedestrians on the street. I haven't seen anybody walking toward Camden Yards. All the police officers that were at Camden Yards are now in northwest Baltimore. The MLK Jr. corridor has cleared out for those going southbound, heading toward Russell Street. Russell Street is fine. 395 is empty now, heading southbound to 95. 95 south is a little bit heavy, getting down to the lane shift beyond Russell Street, and 95 north slows after Hanover Street, closer to Key Highway now, into the Fort McHenry Tunnel. There's an accident at Pratt and President. President Street northbound is closed at Pratt because of that, and that is not helping Harbor East, which has been a mess anyway. Alisana, Fleet, Eastern Avenue, basically going east over toward Canton are jammed, but President Street from Alisana up to Pratt, where it's shut down, is a mess. Orleans Street is still a bit heavy over by the Hopkins Medical Complex in both directions. Central Avenue tied up in that area as well, but that has a lot to do with the construction. The JFX is now emptied out northbound, heading out of the city and up toward TV Hill. And southbound, there are no delays coming into the city, save for at the traffic light at Fayette Street. Fayette Street remains closed between Gay and President Street. Lexington Street is closed over by City Hall, and Baltimore Street is shut down between Gay and President. The Fayette and Baltimore closures because of security concerns over at City Police Headquarters. I'm Jim Russ, WBAL News Radio 1090.
Hey, Jim, you said you can see over toward Camden Yards, and there's nobody over there. We are now within that 2-hour limit when the gates would normally be open for the game that's supposed to start against the White Sox this evening. Do you have any sense that the stadium is open for people if they are trying to get there?
I can't see the stadium directly from where I am. I will walk down to the street and figure out what's going on there. But the last time I was downstairs about a half an hour ago, there were a few city police officers down there. There were Orioles employees around the gates standing and waiting to see what was going to happen. I'll walk downstairs. I'll get back to you in a few minutes.
This may be one of those cases because just because you can doesn't mean you should.
Exactly. That's precisely right.
I just want to mention something. Mondawmin Metro Subway following stations are also now closed. Upton Metro Station, Lexington Market Metro Station, the State Center Station, and Penn North Metro. I also want to mention, too, we got a statement from the city schools folks, and there's a long statement here about the current unrest that's going on today, but they say, we are deeply concerned about our students and community, and we hope to treat this situation not only as a teachable moment, but also a time for thoughtful reflection on how we can reduce conflict and violence in our society. They say they will continue to be vigilant in support for all the city's young people.
WBAL News Time, now 5:07 as we continue our special coverage of what's been going on for the last 2 hours.
It's disappointing. We're just hours
out. I believe this is the Reverend Jamal Bryant, who spoke at the funeral today, speaking now on the streets of Baltimore.
Just a few blocks away from where we had the services. Disappointing, and I'm hoping to bring some calm and to bring our young people back into focus as to what we're really marching.
What do you?
Hopefully we'll pick up that signal again.
not what the family asked for. Today of all days, the family was very clear that this was a day of sacred closure in the funeral. So for us to come out of the burial and walk into this is absolutely inexcusable. I'm asking every young person to go back home. Tomorrow night we'll have a community meeting for us to really recalibrate because peace is the call and the order of the day.
And Mary Beth, you had pointed out earlier as we continued at this
anger and
signal cut in and out.
Disrespect to the family. The family was very clear. We've been saying it all along. Today, there is absolutely no protest, no demonstration that we go back into the street on tomorrow.
Pastor, what are you hearing? We're hearing it's not just in this area.
No,
but North Avenue.
No, we've got it.
Downtown.
We have a team of men from the church going to North Avenue.
He's talking to reporters right now. That's Reverend Jamal Bryant, who spoke at the funeral, and good for him. Coming out now. We need to hear more of this, and hopefully someone is listening.
You had pointed out, based on the video, that we could see that this was not necessarily young people anymore. They started this, but some of the people that we've seen running in and running out of the CVS down there at North in Pennsylvania do not appear to be the kids who were around Mondawmin Mall. These are, in many cases, adults.
Making that human wall to let the men know that they've got to send the children
Where
back.
is that happening?
It's downtown is what I'll say.
So all across downtown?
From North Avenue to downtown, those hot spots, we're pulling everybody back so that we can have calm and order. Violence is not the answer for justice.
Pastor, you said this is a peaceful protest, but we've seen people, demonstrators, agitators, however you want to refer to them, throw rocks, bricks.
No, today what has happened this afternoon is not, and it does not reflect the spirit and the heart of this movement. This is a movement of peace. We're calling for justice, not for vengeance and not for violence. This does not represent the Gray family, nor does it represent the last 7 days of peaceful protest. And so we're asking all of those who are participating to go back home. Tomorrow we start afresh and anew and stay focused on justice for this family and justice for Baltimore.
Question to the mayor.
I have not spoken to the mayor.
And where do you go from here? So you're getting your own people
My
out.
focus is not the mayor. My focus is not the police commissioner. My focus is these black children on the streets. I don't want them arrested, wounded, or tear gas. I want them all to go back home.
Very powerful message today at the eulogy. How does what you see now on the street?
All right, you're listening live to the Reverend Jamal Bryant. He happens to be standing right out on North Avenue, which is fairly close to where the looting has been happening. Most recently, he's with WBAL-TV's Barry Sims, saying that violence is not the answer for justice, calling on people to go back home, calling for a peaceful gathering tomorrow night. We're hoping maybe we'll hear a little bit more from him, but I think we've lost that signal at the moment.
Yeah, we've also seen what we've continued to see for the last 2 hours, Mary Beth, which is civilian cars going through this area, this trouble spot. The roads have not been shut down, and just now we have seen the video of a number of people jumping, what would appear to be a civilian car going by. The people jumped on it, and it was literally covered with people and continued to go down the street. I guess if you're the driver in that case, you want to keep going for, as best you can. It's not clear exactly what's going on.
We can't really tell where this is exactly, but...
driver of a vehicle, or does it appear
here we go.
This driver in this car is assisting these people to get to a different location?
That's what it seems like.
They're trying to take the doors off.
Busting the car up, Stan. And I'll tell you what I've seen earlier. I saw a car that was trying to go northbound on North Avenue, got in the middle of the demonstrators. They started beating up on the car. They opened up the car door. They actually tried to drag the individual out. Fortunately, the individual had a seatbelt on, and the individual put the car in reverse, just stopped on the gas, and people ended up going flying and was able to escape from harm with all the protesters that were, or demonstrators that were around him.
Yeah, this car being vandalized is a diamond cab, it looks like, from the logo on the side.
And yes. And I mean, if you could notice what they did to the police cars and the van that was behind the police cars, I wouldn't be surprised if they don't set this on fire.
They're doing something inside it right now. It's hard to tell what, but something is going on inside the car.
Yes.
And
so, I mean, it's just... Yeah, go ahead, Stan.
Roy, it appears that this has become so fluid now from the original spot of where it began around Mondawmin Mall. It seems to be spreading in all directions. Farther west, it's heading south towards the downtown area. I guess the best advice we can offer anybody right now, just stay away from the area. Don't even try to drive into the area because we don't know where something's going to flare up.
Exactly. You're absolutely right, Stan. I mean, it's a shame, but that's what's going on here. Your pockets from what was going on up towards Mondawmin Mall have literally broken out. And you stop thinking about it. This is a good distance. We're about, 3 or 4 miles from Mondawmin Mall.
Exactly.
And if you want to talk it, the web has increased to the fact where they're just causing, mayhem and destructions anywhere they want to. And as Donna was saying before with social media, I'm sure they're letting, friends know what they're doing, and it's just growing. They want to be a part of it.
Yeah.
It's just a nonstop.
It's so devastating for Baltimore City, too, because I know Anne Arundel County schools are canceling all trips to Baltimore City through May 3rd because of the unrest. So the physical damage done to the city, but also the financial damage done because people cancel trips here.
You're listening to WBAL-TV, Donna Hamilton, Stan Stovall, Captain Roy Taylor, and I think Stan really hit on it. At this point, stay out of the area. There is no reason to be driving in these areas right now. You're really taking a risk if you do go near Mondawmin Mall or this area around North Avenue and Pennsylvania Avenue. Those are the main pockets of violence that we've seen so far, but it's also, as they pointed out, it seems to be popping up in other areas as well.
Baltimore riots now trending on Twitter. One quick note before we head to break, I believe WBAL-TV's Kai Reed is at the Mondawmin Mall. She says a state police vehicle, now one of those that caught on fire.
So Jim is downtown, but Dave Sandler is also keeping his eyes on the highways around Baltimore. I mean, obviously people are still going home tonight. Let's check in with Detour Dave.
Traffic and weather on the 5s on WBAL News Radio 1090.
Well, Mary Beth, as Jim indicated, a lot of the traffic has left the downtown area, working its way onto the interstate. So things are really busy along 695. For instance, the inner loop is jammed up from an earlier incident. A lot of the heavy traffic from pretty much the Anne Arundel County line and all the way up towards 795. It continues to run slowly through the Pikesville location and all the way around to the other part of I-95, which is the Rosedale side, where we had an accident earlier blocking all travel lanes. The left lane is still being affected by this accident, so pretty much between the 95s, the inner loop is really gridlocked. The outer loop has a lot of stop and go on that Rosedale side, continuing around to Perring, and then again from right around Delaney Valley. That's going to go through the 83s and one more slow spot beginning at 95 and going down to the Anne Arundel County line. A lot of activity earlier along the Jones Falls. That looks to be a real good route right now to get out of the downtown area. Traffic is really jammed into the Fort McHenry and the Harbor Tunnel, and a lot of folks are working their way through the west side and trying to avoid that North Avenue and Pennsylvania Avenue. According to Greg on the cell phone, Hilton Street is really jammed up between Frederick and Caton Avenue, trying to make your way over toward the Arbutus side of town. Light rail is now stopped southbound at North Avenue. The northbound side can get up as far as Hamburg, and then it's closed off as well. So the light rail is shut down virtually into the downtown area, both to the north and south. And the metro, several stops between Upton and Pennsylvania North are also closed off to traffic as well. Mondawmin, obviously, that area, try to stay away from that location as well. Along with the road closures that continue along Fayette Street, which is closed between President and Gay, and Baltimore also remains shut down between President and Gay as well. This update is brought to you by Subway, the new Subway Turkey Italiano Melt, fresh toasted with tender, juicy turkey, robust salami, and pepperoni. These big three unite under melting provolone cheese and drizzled with tangy new Subway vinaigrette. There's only one place to get the Turkey Italiano Melt. That's Subway. Eat fresh. I'm Dave Sandler, news, traffic, and weather 24/7 on WBAL News Radio 1090.
Sully's Seafood and Barbecue, new owners, same location. Remember Sully's, East Baltimore's favorite spot for steamed crabs, real smoked barbecue brisket, and the best ribs. Remember Sully's, our perfectly smoked turkey, pulled pork, beef brisket, and award-winning peach tea are the absolute best in town. Remember Sully's, come in weekdays 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. for our $5 lunch specials or Sundays for our dinner specials. Remember Sully's for all your catering needs. 5514 Bel Air Road, 410-483-5139. Remember Sully's, Seafood and Barbecue. Closed Mondays.
This is a special edition of Maryland's News Now. Violence in northwestern Baltimore. Here is Mary Beth Marsden on WBAL News Radio 1090.
This is our special team live coverage. I'm also here with Phil Yacuboski and Bill Vanko. Our Scott Wykoff has been live at Mondawmin Mall since early this afternoon. Really, that was sort of ground zero for the violence, and then it has really turned into a riot on some of the streets in Baltimore, and police have their hands full. Bill, we've been watching some of the looting happening around North Avenue in Pennsylvania. I think that's what we're looking at now. By the way, we should mention, if you want to stream some of this video from Captain Roy Taylor, we also have it on WBAL.com.
We are now reporting that the White House apparently is now monitoring the situation here in the city, as what we are learning many are calling the riots in the city. So just an FYI.
And we are also seeing police ringing police headquarters downtown, police who are not Baltimore police. They are from one of the jurisdictions from outside the city. A number of them, Howard, Anne Arundel, state police, have all sent help into the city at this point. The Orioles game at last check was still on. We asked Jim Russ to go check and see if anybody was actually trying to brave it and get to the park. Jim has walked out and walked back in. What did you see, Jim?
Well, the gates to Camden Yards are open, but let me tell you, there are very few people going in. I did see a couple of people going in there. In addition, the bars over on the Packard Street side of the ballpark, a number of them are closed. The only one that I saw that was open was Pickles. Sliders is shut down. Frank and Nick's, which sustained a lot of damage on Saturday's violence, that is still shut down, although the damage has been fixed. But I figured these owners are thinking right now, why open up tonight? In fact, at Frank and Nick's, all the blinds are pulled down, so they are definitely not open for business tonight.
Yeah, and if you missed it earlier, the Orioles had announced earlier today that if you went to the Orioles game against the Red Sox on Saturday, or if you didn't and had a ticket, you can get a free ticket to a subsequent home game later in this year. They said the people who didn't use the tickets can turn them back in, and the people who did, because they didn't enjoy what the Orioles called the optimum Oriole experience, will also be able to get another ticket. The last thing the Orioles have tweeted is, here's how we line up versus the White Sox, and they've printed their lineups for tonight, so they are apparently planning to go through with the game, although one would have to question why anybody would brave a trip into Baltimore.
And Bill
at
and
this
Jim,
point.
we just saw a report from Karen Campbell from WBAL-TV, and she said officials are telling people, if you're coming to the game, come in quickly. Come into the gates quickly, get in the ballpark quickly.
If they're telling me that, I'm not coming.
Well, let me tell you something else.
It seems like most...
some of the garages downtown, and the one that I park in, had closed the gates. The metal gates that are closed at night were closed at 2 o'clock this afternoon, where there wasn't an attendant. So there are a lot of places where you were thinking you might want to park. You're not going to be able to do that, and I certainly would leave my car on the street out here tonight.
And people who might be taking the subway in from Owings Mills, as they might on a regular day, half of the stations in downtown Baltimore are closed because of this.
As far as you know, Jim, light rail is running. Is that right?
Light rail is running, but on Saturday night, light rail is susceptible to people on the tracks, and that was a big problem on Saturday night, was people, just by virtue of the fact that there was, first of all, the police line across Howard Street to keep people away from Camden Yards, but also because the protesters wound up standing on Howard Street. If Howard Street's blocked, the trains aren't moving.
And
so
Jim, one more thing, too. When we're talking about Saturday night, they closed the southbound JFX pretty quickly, as I recall.
They did, and it was shut down from the Beltway.
Have you heard anything more along those lines today?
No, not so far.
Interestingly enough, Mary Beth, we've seen for the better part of an hour now this looting going on at the CVS store at North Avenue and Pennsylvania Avenue, and there is what appears to be very little police presence around that. Earlier, we had police lines ringing Mondawmin Mall. Yes. There were dozens, if not hundreds, of police officers there. Here at North and Pennsylvania, where people have been knocking in the windows, going in, coming out with stuff, there's not a lot of police presence there right now.
CVS is really taking it on the chin.
Yeah.
And on that note, Maryland State Police just tweeted that they are supporting Baltimore police currently with 42 troopers. Another 40 are responding and will be deployed later on this evening.
Picture just posted at WBAL-TV's Twitter feed from Jayne Miller, who is at Utah and Saratoga, a line of officers. And Mary Beth, you're looking at this as well here. I don't know, probably about 50 police officers lining the intersection to prevent this crowd of people from getting downtown.
Yeah, along Saratoga.
That's the direction it's been heading.
Jim, you're still with us, aren't you?
Yeah, that's right. I was just going to say, Jayne Miller tweeted out that picture that Phil was just telling you about it. And it sounds like the police sirens are getting closer. So it does sound like they're trying to get to downtown, but it also sounds like the city police are trying to cut them off at the pass.
Jim Russ, live for us downtown. Thank you. Scott Wykoff has been at Mondawmin Mall since, I don't know, about 2 o'clock this afternoon. Is that right,
Scott,
Bill?
do you have a helmet on?
No, I don't.
I'm worried about you, pal.
Yeah, and that's why you kind of you go to where you can
see.
He's
given us his whole theory about safety.
Yeah, you position where you can, and you just try to stay as safe as you can. But I'm telling you, the officers are really good in Baltimore with this. This is really the first time that I've covered anything like this on the streets of Baltimore in the 12, 13 years that I've worked here, and they're very good about telling both people like me and just the regular citizens where to go, what to do, what to expect as it's going on. I've been in other places where they just take prisoners. They just round everybody up. Everybody who's out gets rounded up, and then they sort it out after that. What I just noticed was I walked over to a park that's across from Mondawmin Mall here, and there's a huge police presence there. It almost looks like they've brought in reinforcements for police officers, and they're giving them their marching orders before they prepare to send them out.
So it's sort of a staging area.
Exactly. And
is there still confrontation going on there around Mondawmin?
You know what? There's individual confrontations going on. It's not the group throwing rocks like we saw before, but I've seen a couple different people now, more people brought back that have been arrested and taken into custody in the last few minutes here. I'm just got a group here that's having a little bit of fun with me, okay? Yeah, and that's what I've seen, but I've also seen the presence you're talking about of Maryland State Police, and that was something that we didn't see earlier in the day. But as the afternoon's going on, I'm watching another Maryland State Trooper move by me right now, and as you hear over top of me, more helicopters in the area. So without a doubt, they still are keeping an eye on this Mondawmin Mall area, because a number of the people, potentially those who are responsible for injuring those 7 police officers, could still be in this neighborhood. What's going on now at North and Pennsylvania Avenue, where there are 2 cars on fire and the pharmacy, the drugstore there, is being looted, that looks to be a much older crowd than we have seen around here. But I will also say, as the rock throwing picked up and the intensity picked up here out on Reisterstown Road, on Gwynns Falls Parkway, on Liberty Heights Avenue, that too looked like an older crowd, where it all started here with the young crowd that come across after school from Douglas High School.
And the headlines that we're going to see and the photographs we're going to see on newspapers all over the world tomorrow are of people we can see coming out of the CVS at North and Pennsylvania Avenue, literally carrying shopping bags full of stuff as the windows have all been knocked out. It looks like maybe the store is empty now, because there's not nearly as many people going in as there were. But the number of people going in and out has subsided considerably, and it appears that that crowd may be moving down Pennsylvania Avenue closer to the center city.
Please.
If there's something I can add, Bill, there's something I just saw within the last 15 minutes, which it might be incidental. It might just be what I saw. But I did see a couple officers come back and get their actual weapons that they would drop over their shoulders, that they don't hold in their arms when they're out on the green line, but they would have dropped over their shoulders almost on a lanyard of such. Most of the police officers we've seen on these long blue lines have been officers with their helmets on, with the vests on, and with their sticks, and with those big shields that they hold up to knock away what was being thrown at them. This is the first time where I saw some of the officers, and that doesn't mean this hasn't been going on throughout the afternoon, that actually had their service rifles with them draped over their chest, not in their arms, not holding them, not with their hands on them, but over lanyards around their necks.
Yeah, Scott, you know, I often think of the people who live there, particularly the older people who are now holed up in their houses. I'm sure they're afraid, not knowing what to do. I'm wondering if anyone has had the courage to come out onto their porches to sort of see what's going on. And the reason I bring it up is because now we're hearing reports of some of the, obviously, as you know, a lot of students take metro buses to get home from school, and because of what's happening now on the west side and on North Avenue in Pennsylvania, they're struggling to get home. So there's a lot of disruption in other ways that we don't see readily.
Yes, and I've seen that I've seen kids with backpacks that haven't been involved in this, what started out as a demonstration of the Douglas students. I've seen a lot in the later hours of the afternoon with the backpacks that looked as though they're just walking, and they can't get their buses. Again, I've been looking at this bus near me, the number 51 Cherry Hill Rogers Station bus that has just been sitting here, and behind it, dozens of buses behind it, just sitting here. And those buses at this hour of the day in the city are filled, if not with students coming home from school, with folks that are coming home from work, that are going to their cars that might be parked in lots or going back to their neighborhoods. But it's interesting, Mary Beth, as you mentioned that, I'm looking at some row houses here, and there's no activity on these steps at all. And these are row houses where people live. These are row houses that people are very proud of. They're not boarded up. They're not in disrepair. These are where families and people live. and they're not coming out on their porches.
All right, Scott, as you know, the Orioles are playing tonight. Bill, we've been talking about that, and Phil as well, and now we're getting some word that Oriole Park at Camden Yard has been ordered by police to close the gates. I don't know what that means. I don't know if that means the game is not being played, but Rock Kabako just tweeted it out. The gates are being closed at Oriole Park for now.
This from the governor's office. There's been no request made for the National Guard. A lot of people wondering where the National Guard is on a day like today. There's been no request made for that. And
something else we have not heard is we have not heard from the mayor at this point. 2.5 hours into this, she has not made, as far as we know, any public statements such as those that came Saturday night when things.
His words shut down the city of Baltimore, now calling for another rally on Saturday for Freddie Gray. No timeline on that just yet, but we just, 3 o'clock, same place, same time, City Hall.
All right, well, a lot of people made their way out of the city earlier today. A lot of businesses closed down in anticipation of something just like this. But there's a lot of traffic on the highways around Baltimore, and Dave Sandler is keeping an eye on it for us. Dave?
Traffic and weather on the 5s on WBAL News Radio 1090.
Including the JFX Mary Beth northbound direction right past the first exit that would take you to Townsend. That next one, which is labeled Pikesville, or getting onto the outer loop. It's almost completely closed off right now, so if you're either heading to Falls Road or you're heading off the top end of the JFX, it's busy. As a matter of fact, stop and go beginning right around the city-county line. Our beltway's been jammed with traffic ever since the folks have gotten out of the downtown area. Pretty much the inner loop is slow from right around the 295 BW Parkway all the way around to Liberty Road, and more top sign delays go from right around Green Spring Avenue, and that's going to go all the way out toward Long Craven Boulevard. The outer loop is jammed up from Pulaski Highway, Philadelphia Road. That'll continue down through the 83s, and we're noticing that the JFX is moving well out of downtown until you get up to the city-county line, where you'll encounter that accident up near the Beltway interchange. Elsewhere, Fort McHenry Tunnel, northbound side jammed up coming off of 395. 395 itself, along with the bottom end of the JFX, is not a problem right now. It looks like 895, the Harbor Tunnel, all the way back to the 97 spur. So if you get onto the Key Bridge in either direction to save yourself some time. Also, things like the light rail are affected with all of this activity in the downtown area. Southbound has been shut down at the North Avenue spot, and in the northbound direction, they're stopping the light rail at Hamburg. So obviously, they're not allowing any of the traffic to get into downtown on light rail. Several of the metro stations are closed as well, including the one at Mondawmin, as we've been talking about. Penn North, we have State Center, which is closed off as well, along with the Lexington Market and Upton stations. All of those metro stations are closed to the traffic. Better news, however, along that section of Pratt at President. They've just reopened the roadway following an earlier accident, but there's a lot of slow traffic in and around Inner Harbor East, so please give yourself some additional time. Try to get on the Key Highway and move to the Fort McHenry out to the northeast as a better way to get by. This update is brought to you by Burlington. Spring at Burlington and the trends are all in full bloom. Try to renew your wardrobe for the season. Stop at Burlington. Save up to 65% off department store prices every day. Burlington, style for everyone. I'm Dave Sandler, news, traffic, and weather 24/7 on WBAL News Radio 1090.
Hi, this is C4 from WBAL News Radio 1090. Give back to those who sacrifice and choose to protect us by joining the We Are 1365 Foundation on Sunday, May 3rd for a 5K race, 1-mile walk at the Gunpowder State Park, Bunker Hill in Hereford. Run or walk to help raise awareness and financial support for military families in need. Registration begins at 8 a.m. Take a trail run or walk through beautiful Gunpowder State Park. Participants can register by emailing contact@weare1365.org.
WBAL News Radio 1090 and WBAL.com with a talk block.
We will not do that.
Weekdays from 9 to 3 with C4.
And I want to talk with you about this.
And Derek Hunter.
That's not at all the case.
Informative and opinionated. Plus your chance to be part of the conversation.
I also wanted to say before
The Talk Block. Weekdays 9 to 3. C4 and Derek Hunter.
Derek, I love it. You need to go national.
WBAL News Radio 1090 and WBAL.com.
Hey, we're Fireflies, and we're out here every night rocking out our light show at a forest near you. So come check us out.
Come alive with the forest. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a forest near you. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Long before 18-year-old Brooks Robinson was signed to play third base, and years before Natty Boh began brewing at the corner of Conkling and O'Donnell Streets, Baltimore families relied on the Evans family and the Evans Funeral Chapel and cremation services to help them during some of their most important family moments. Hi, I'm Charlie Evans, and for 4 generations, my family and I have been there for families, providing care and compassion in their time of need. Evans Funeral Chapel and Cremation Services provides the best facility, staff, and personalized service for your family. We have 3 convenient locations to serve the community: Parkville, Forest Hill, and Hereford. For more information, visit us online at evansfuneralchapel.com or call 410-665-9444. Evans Funeral Chapel and Cremation Services, serving Baltimore families since 1865. I invite your confidence.
Local late breaking. This is a special edition of Maryland's News Now. Violence in northwestern Baltimore. Here is Mary Beth Marsden on WBAL News Radio 1090.
It's 5:34. We've been with you all afternoon, and we'll stay with you to get you through this very difficult time in the city. Mary Beth Marsden here with Phil Yacuboski and Bill Vanko, and Phil has some updates from the state police.
I do, and I'm reading this blind, as we say in the business. At 4 o'clock today, another 40 troopers were ordered to duty and will be deploying to the city early this evening to join the troopers that are already there, and that means the 32 that were called here the other day. Troopers are being deployed where needed and at the assistance of the city police department. The superintendent of state police, William Palazzi, is coordinating the support operations of state troopers to make sure everyone is safe. Since last Thursday, and I believe this is a number that we have not yet known, more than 280 state troopers have provided assistance to Baltimore, and police will continue to do that as requested by the mayor and the commissioner of the city police department.
Yeah, and they drove in all those vans earlier today in front of Mondawmin Mall, and they're not the only ones helping. Anne Arundel County has police officers here. Baltimore County has police officers here. Howard County has police officers here, and the more the better, because right now there's some more looting and rioting happening at a Rite Aid store now in Baltimore. We're told it's at Mulberry and MLK. Apparently, they've gotten everything they needed out of the CVS, and now they're hitting.
Well, that's what we can see. We can see the video, the airborne video, because everybody's got a helicopter up at this point. This problem started right at the crack of 3 o'clock when Douglas High School released its students, and some of them came out and ran down the street to the local 7-Eleven and ran in and ran out without causing a huge amount of trouble. And there was about an hour's worth of confrontation with police around Mondawmin Mall, which fell apart into rock throwing. Police responded with tear gas. As we've been told, at least 7 police officers suffered serious injuries. And from there, it's kind of moved down Reisterstown Road to where it became Pennsylvania Avenue. The Pennsylvania North CVS was hit. Now we can see groups of people, very unorganized groups of people, just strolling down the road toward this drugstore at Mulberry and MLK, the Rite Aid there. Very unorganized, very casual, and not running into any real police resistance at this point.
Well, and that's been part of the problem. There are these loosely based violent groups who are going from neighborhood to neighborhood, and it's been difficult for police to corral them. And so now they're turning to parents, and they're putting out the call for parents to contact their children, call your children, and tell them to get home, that violence is not the answer. The theory being that a lot of these violent looters and rioters and people throwing bricks are juveniles. And so the police are now calling on parents to find out where your kids are.
But we can see on the video that that's not always the case at this point. A lot of them are, and certainly at the beginning, virtually all of them were. We could see kids literally coming out the front door at Douglas High School with their hands in the air, in some cases, as they walked past police who were there waiting for them when they got out of school. Phil, you got your arm?
Yeah, just in the past few seconds here, now learning that the University of Baltimore is now closed. All evening and events canceled tonight beginning at 5:30 because of the situation downtown.
And earlier today, the University of Maryland at Baltimore also shut its campus and told everybody to get out of town.
And from the pictures that we're seeing, both from our sister station, WBAL-TV, and some of the folks I'm reading on Twitter and following, nobody is downtown. We had told you earlier today that a number of businesses had decided as early as 1 o'clock to let their employees go at about 3, or to 2 situations. You were either in lockdown mode inside the building, which means we weren't letting anybody else in, or if you left, you would go. We're now looking at that CVS at Mulberry and North Avenue that has
and there's
just
another
been destroyed.
fire. There's another fire in the
Apparently
street
there is
in
another
front of it.
police car on fire, too. I've been
Yeah,
seeing, at least judging from the photos on Twitter.
Right.
And I should just add, my husband works at 1 South Street, and he got the email this afternoon, and he called me to see if it was really serious. And I said, leave! Do not stay. And they basically said what they're going to be doing is they will be securing the building, closing the entrances, locking down the garages. You could have your pass key and get in and out if you chose to. But that's right by police headquarters. And what's the point? Why after we saw what happened Saturday, why risk it?
We've seen some of the pictures from Oriole Park at Camden Yards where we're just over an hour and 25 minutes from the start of the game against the White Sox. Batting practice, we understand, was going on, but there is literally, as near as we can tell from the overhead shots, nobody in the stadium. Very few fans, and we've been told in the last few minutes that some of the gates there have been ordered closed by police because this unrest, which started near Mondawmin Mall, has filtered much closer to the center of the city over the last 2 hours as it came down Pennsylvania Avenue.
And, we are focused on the CVS at West North Avenue and Pennsylvania Avenue, but city police say that a number of businesses in that area have been broken in and property damage. So it's not only the CVS, that's one we can see on our inside, and those look like city sheriff's deputies, do they not?
Could be sheriff's deputies, could be Baltimore County Police.
All hands on deck. All hands on deck.
Yes. Many of the surrounding jurisdictions have sent help to Baltimore City at this point. We've seen sheriff's deputies as well surrounding city police headquarters downtown. There are pictures of police cars that are parked along the roads being jumped on by some of the protesters.
This just tweeted by Russell Simmons, who of course we all know well. I'm just catching up on the news coming out of Baltimore. This is bad. Sending my prayers to everyone in that beautiful city.
And this all, again, followed what was a very somber but very peaceful funeral ceremony earlier today for Freddie Gray. There was no trouble there. There was virtually no police presence there. There were a number of people there who got up and spoke, including the Gray family attorney, Billy Murphy, who sort of called the mayor on the carpet about the relations between police and the people in the city.
She knows what time it is. She knows what time it is. She knows what the police do. She knows. Oh, yeah.
Jesse Jackson also spoke, but there was, again, it was a very somber, peaceful, and respectful ceremony.
If only that could have continued.
Yeah, after the schools got out. Now we're seeing other check cashing.
It looks like looters are trying to break into a check cashing business, bank business. Let's listen into WBAL-TV.
Yes.
Oh, here's Captain Roy up in the helicopter again.
Captain Roy.
Okay. They're inside.
It looks like they're all exiting now. I don't know if that's because they've been confronted by armed guards on the inside, or
I doubt it.
They're coming out fast.
It appears to me that there's probably somebody armed in there that's sending them on their way. I'm going to make that assumption.
Yeah,
that's an assumption on my part. Don't know for a fact.
I can tell you one thing, nobody's going in.
That's for sure.
And everybody came out.
That's for sure.
So something happened in there that
it looks like they busted out the windows to get out. Oh, there they go back in again.
I don't know what's happening here. That's a very dangerous situation.
All right.
Very dangerous.
Extremely volatile, extremely dangerous.
Yeah.
Right now we're going to check back in with Barry Sims, where really all of this trouble began this afternoon, close to Mondawmin Mall. And where are you, Barry?
Wait. Before we go, Captain Roy, that looks like a money bag. The young man in the sweatshirt and the tan pants, that looks like a money bag that he just brought out of that bank. White satchel, typically used for transporting funds. You see armored cars pulling them out of the armored car, taking them in. Not that one there.
All right, Stan's describing a scene that's happening on the sidewalk right now.
Bank with what they call a white satchel bag.
This does not appear to be a bank. It's a check cashing service that are one of those that are so common in Baltimore.
And if they were, they're probably long gone.
Which theoretically, they have a lot of cash there.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people were inside. They all came streaming out. Everyone's speculating about exactly what's happening, but now they're just milling around, and they've come out of that business and they're moving on.
Hashtag Baltimore riots, they tell us, is trending very quickly on Twitter right now.
We should still mention, too, we have not heard anything definitive about the Orioles game tonight. It's expected to start at 7:05. For a while, the gates were open. They told people, if you're coming, get in here quickly. And then they closed the gates. They were told by Baltimore police to close the gates for now as a precaution. We don't know. We don't know when they'll be reopened, but there's been no decision made by Major League Baseball.
Well, no decision means, as far as we can tell, it's on. That's on. What they had told us earlier, that their intentions were, and the last thing the Orioles tweeted was the lineup for tonight, so they've said nothing there.
The one big difference in what's happening right now and what happened Saturday is the lack of pedestrians. The lack of civilians, as it were, people who are not looting.
A lot of people
who are not,
got out early.
They got out of town, and so this is now, at least you can maybe, hopefully, isolate some of the people that are causing the trouble.
WBAL Scott Wykoff is back where it all started at Mondawmin Mall. Situation normal there, Scott?
You know, it's not normal, but I'm starting to see some of the police officers backing down. I just saw some of the guys that had moved over where I was, getting back into their vehicles. They are leaving the scene now. You might hear some of their sirens. Typically when they're getting out of here, going somewhere else, they put those sirens on, and there's a steady flow now. I would imagine they're making a move towards that area in closer into town, Pennsylvania Avenue, North Avenue, Mulberry, in where Captain Roy has been describing that activity. And I tell you, there's one officer, and I give him a lot of credit. He came off the line. He was on that blue line for a couple hours, going on 3 hours now. And I saw him walk back here, take his helmet off, take his vest off, and he had a good conversation with, though, I would say about a dozen people who have been standing here, describing people from the neighborhood, maybe people that typically take buses out of here, just letting him know what's going on. He could have easily just gotten back into his car and gotten out of here, but he's being a part of the neighborhood, and that's, I know, what the mayor had been talking about in the weeks and the months leading up into all this, is getting police officers' trust back into the neighborhood. And this is a great example of an officer who took off that helmet, took off that vest, and has gone into the neighborhood and is talking and trying to discuss what's going on. Mary Beth, the original van that we saw that was here that took that police officer, the one that was really badly injured, away, that van now for the first time is leaving here. I believe it's leaving Mondawmin Mall. So that quite possibly could be moving down towards where the activities move. The problem I have right now is that the roads here are blocked off and shut down. So I'm going to make the move that I can there's another armored vehicle from Prince George's County Police. So I was right. I thought I saw the emblem on the shoulder of a number of these police officers that have been here at Mondawmin Mall today, and Prince George's County Police. Yes, that is true.
And on that note, and I hope that this is also a good sign, Prince George's County Police just tweeted, our officers in Baltimore have been pulled back into a reserve status and will assist as needed. Are you getting
that's exactly what I saw, Mary Beth, and I'm seeing that exactly now. Those sirens you hear, I believe, are those officers. It's very interesting. When I first got here to Mondawmin Mall this afternoon, all the officers I saw that were all in uniforms were all getting out of unmarked cars. I didn't see a single car with Baltimore Police written on the side of it. They're all getting out of unmarked cars. They were all opening their trunks and getting their tactical gear out.
Right now, driving a marked car is a problem in parts of the city, Scott, because we've seen a number of them set on fire. I can imagine they're trying to avoid that problem by getting there as inconspicuously as possible.
And it makes them able to move. I have to believe that was one of the reasons they were able to get here so quickly, so many officers. I mean, there's not a station right here that they could have walked from. You're talking the Western District, the Northern District stations. Those are a long ways from here. They got here very quickly. I would like to know if, when they got here, is it what they expected or if it got a lot bigger. I remember early on we were wondering why there were so many police here. Then when you find out why they were here, 7 police officers injured. One of those officers was non-responsive, and the crowd that we saw here in the streets throwing rocks and bricks and bottles at police officers, described by the Baltimore City Police Department as violent criminals, lawless individuals with no regard for safety.
Just an FYI, before we get more from Scott, I want to break in here. The MTA is now saying that all southbound light rail service coming from Hun Valley is now stopping at North Avenue, and all northbound light rail service coming from BWI and Cromwell is suspended at Patapsco Light Rail Station because they don't want to get, I guess, anything further into the city.
No one's getting to the game that way, then. Also,
You know
we
what?
should add. Go ahead.
I'm smelling
tear gas?
smoke. And
it's quite possible another vehicle's on fire.
Yeah, we're seeing
not
video
sure if
from the helicopter of a car that fully engulfed in flames. We're not at all sure where it is, but we've seen this over and over again over the last couple of hours.
Yeah, and this doesn't smell. And yeah, this is definitely a change here. The police don't seem to be concerned, but there must have been some deployment of tear gas or something, or some sort of smoke, because we're real.
Is it black smoke?
It's sulfury, and I'm not. It's almost like a little bit of a fog.
Could it be gunpowder, Scott?
I'm not sure. It's a sulfury smell to it, and this is the first time I've smelled it, and and I didn't have any water, so that's why I was coughing just a little bit.
Yeah.
But the police aren't concerned because they're as you said, Mary Beth, they're backing down here.
Yeah, I think there's a vehicle that's fully engulfed right now, and I have a feeling that's what it is that you smell. And right now, just so you know, Scott, and I'm glad that things are starting to calm down where you are, but Baltimore police now tweeting that the group, or as they call it, the aggressive group, is now walking southbound on Utah Street toward Paca Street. And they are telling people to avoid this area. This group, in their words, remains aggressive.
That's the group we've seen trying to break into almost any building they go past that looks like it may have something inside worth looting. It started at the CVS store up there at Pennsylvania and North, where for the better part of 2 hours people knocked in the windows and simply went in.
Yeah, and by the way, and this is the group that I believe our news director, Malarie, said she saw carrying baseball bats, which would partly explain how they're breaking into all the windows.
Or, you know what Captain Roy Taylor said the other night? They were carrying tire irons in a similar capacity to just smash windows and keep going.
WBAL's David Collins at one point showed what looked like a pike, a landscaping timber that had been sharpened to a point. And,
all right, CNN has a banner now saying there's rioting near Camden Yards.
And we've also got a convoy of police cars with lights on
right
coming down outside
Camden
Camden Yards. So
maybe should we join TV and just hear what they're saying about this real quick?
This game will continue, or if it will be canceled. Again, I just want to mention that people are still coming to this game. You see two people walking through the gate right there, and police are standing by, again, in their riot gear.
Ask them what they're thinking.
Because these rioters, they expect them to come to this area. But again, right now, we haven't seen any activity in this area. And here are 4 more people coming into the gate here.
There are police in front of Camden Yards at the entrances.
Yeah, I'm starting to hear more sirens in this area, so I'm not sure what to expect right now. Again, I don't see any activity of rioters coming in this area, but again, I have heard lots of sirens surrounding this area. So again, we are live in front of the North Utah Street station, and I'll keep you updated if anything else happens here.
Yeah, Karen, quick question for you. Have you seen any fans going in thus far? The game time tonight, 7:05. You're talking about roughly an hour and 15 minutes before the first pitch. A lot of fans generally would start to make their way in there by now.
Yeah, we just saw some walk in.
Not many.
No, not many. No, not many. I've seen maybe a handful of people. It is really dead in this area right now. And as I said before, I saw maybe 6 people in the last 10 minutes.
All right, that's Karen Campbell outside of Oriole Park. And I just want to say that Ed Encina has tweeted that fans can currently enter Camden Yards by Gate H and Home Plate Plaza. Other gates are currently closed. And also I've seen some other tweets that what's happening now is that police are forming a very wide perimeter around the ballpark. So it won't be like Saturday, at least from what we can tell here. They're going to be keeping those rioters and people who are bent on violence much further away from Camden Yards.
And that's what we just saw was a long convoy of police vehicles about a block from Camden Yards coming down. I'm not sure which street it was, and turning north up toward where the rioters had been at last check.
And this just in, again, just sort of minor in all this, but Pratt Library now closing all of its Baltimore locations.
Let's check in now with TV once
so that
again.
we can begin moving our resources in a manner that is safe and it makes sense, so that we don't unnecessarily put anyone at risk, so that we can begin to bring this situation to an end. As the night goes on, you're going to see us using tear gas and other crowd control techniques, so that we can have this end peacefully without any more injuries to our officers or to any of the people that are in that community.
Eric, this seemed to have branched out in a major way from Mondawmin Mall in several different directions. Have you gotten a sense of what their game plan is, where they're planning to head at this point, and trying to get ahead of that?
You know, Stan, it's really difficult to speculate about not only just the causes of this, but where this is headed. What we know is that we're bringing resources into the area. We talked the other day about the fact that we had reached out to our local law enforcement partners, who we're incredibly thankful for. They're sending us resources so that we can put officers into this community so that we can bring this to a peaceful resolution. This morning we put out a release. The individual that is now somewhat infamous, who was standing on top of one of our police cars in the blue hoodie that had smashed out the windows, we took that individual into custody this morning. Our detectives are able to use the resources that are out there, are very good at investigating cases, and the people that are out there right now destroying other individuals' hard-earned property, money, businesses, we're gonna investigate, we're gonna find those people, and we're gonna take people into custody for these acts.
Hey, Captain, and I know that most of us do not at all understand police tactics and everything, but when we see these pictures of vandals going up and down the street and looting the CVS and looting the check cashing store and no police around, I think sometimes people might wonder, well, where are the police? Is it just you decide just not to deploy them to that area at that time?
You know, Donna, those images are as frustrating for your viewers as they are for us.
Of course.
But again, as I said at the beginning, we need to make sure that when we move our officers that we're doing so in a manner that's safe, that protects them, and that protects people in the area. The level of violence that you saw earlier today, the number of officers that we had that were injured, we can't allow that to happen. It's not acceptable.
And it puts them at risk to, I guess, to go into a situation like that.
And it doesn't take away from our concern. We need to do everything that we can to bring this to a peaceful resolution as quickly as possible. We're moving resources to do that, but we want to make sure that we do it in a manner that no one is injured.
Eric, you put out a message to the media to assist you in getting this message out, which I had mentioned about an hour ago on the air. It's time for parents to step up, get their kids to come home. Would you like to repeat that?
Absolutely. You know, we have kids that are out here that are committing just absolutely unacceptable acts of violence and lawlessness. They have parents. They have parents that should know where their children are, should be taking responsibility for their children. We're going to do what we need to do in order to bring about a peaceful resolution to tonight, and we're going to take people into custody for breaking the law. But before we get to that, parents should be taking their children, bringing them back home. Stan, the other thing that I want to say, I know that these images are disturbing for people, and I know that there's a need for real information besides from your station, what you guys are doing tonight to get information out. If people want to follow us on our social media site on Twitter, at Baltimore Police, we're putting information out there as quickly as we can so that people in the city and in the surrounding areas know exactly what's happening.
Hey, Eric, one final question for you. For those juveniles who are arrested this evening into the night, those parents, where do they need to go to get their kids?
The juvenile intake facility downtown on Front Street is where they're going to be taken. You know, but the hope from this is that other than those who have already committed acts of lawlessness or violence, that through investigation we're going to end up arresting. We don't want to arrest any more people. We want to see this come to a peaceful resolution. We want people to go home. We want parents to get their children and to bring them home so that this doesn't continue.
All right.
And how many? Do we have any arrest reports yet? So how many people have been arrested? Do you know?
I'm waiting to get those numbers right now. I hope to have those numbers soon. Again, we're going to stay in touch with the media all night long so that people in the city know what's happening, and we'll bring you that information as soon as we have it.
All right, Captain Eric Kowalczyk. Eric, thanks for keeping us updated and getting in touch, and we hope to talk to you later tonight and get more updates from you. Thank you, sir.
Right now we're going to...
That's our sister station, WBAL-TV, talking to Police Captain Eric Kowalczyk, who so far has been the voice of the city through all this. We have not yet heard from the mayor or the police commissioner.
Commissioner, as we know, has been on the scene.
He's been on the scene. He's been doing it. The mayor presumably
from the mayor.
has bigger fish to fry at this point in charge in terms of organizing the response to all this, but we have not heard from her. We need to get you another traffic check at this point because getting around town is problematic if there's anybody left in town at this point.
Traffic and weather right now on WBAL News Radio 1090.
Well, not a lot in the downtown area right now, Bill, but certainly a lot of folks stuck on the Beltway. And we've had several calls on the JFX where about 24 county police cars are heading south to help out, I guess, into the downtown area. So be careful out there if you're on the Jones Falls Expressway right now, especially if you're heading in the southbound direction. Police are coming down quickly and making their way into the downtown area. All sorts of Beltway traffic still with us on the inner loop from pretty much 295 all the way into Pikesville, and then that continues around the Perring Parkway. The outer loop is jammed up from 95 through the 83s and down to around the area of Park Heights Avenue before finally opening up. 70 inbound, got 2 miles of backing beginning at the Tapscott River Bridge, and the heaviest tunnel continues to be northbound along 895, which continues to be jammed up into the Harbor Tunnel Thruway. Get to the Key Bridge, and it certainly would make a lot of sense to get you through there. We are also noticing that we still have the road closures along Fayette Street, still shut down between President and Gay. Baltimore Street, last we checked, also between President and Gay to get down to the police headquarters, is closed as well. And traffic right now is in much better shape. We'd be moving away from the city along the northbound side of I-95 through the Fort McHenry Tunnel and all the way out into the area of Rosedale. So we'll keep an eye on that. Certainly a lot of activity in and around Oriole Park at Camden Yards. And we do have some problems with the Metro. A lot of the Metro is not running from the following stations. Upton, also at the area of Lexington Market. That's closed off, along with State Center and Pennsylvania and North Avenue. Those stations are completely closed, along with Mondawmin. The light rail is shut down southbound at North Avenue and northbound at Patapsco Avenue. They're not letting you into the downtown area either at any of those light rail locations. This update brought to you by Burlington. Spring is at Burlington and the trends are in full bloom. Try to renew your wardrobe for the season. Shop Burlington. Save up to 65% off department store prices every day. Burlington style for everyone. I'm Dave Sandler, news, traffic, and weather 24/7 on WBAL News Radio 1090.
This is WBAL News Radio 1090 C4. The Maryland Rural Development Corporation Head Start program is now accepting applications for the 2015 fall session for children born in 2011 and 2012. This comprehensive program consists of education, health, nutrition, and family services. The program is specially designed to meet the needs of low-income and special needs children and their families. For more information, please call Brittany Ayers at 410-398-6638 extension 14.
Story time is the best time. In 15 minutes, you can build a stronger relationship with your children, build self-confidence, awaken a world of wonder. Relax, learn, read. The Family Tree, providing solutions, preventing child abuse. Learn more at familytreemd.org. Brought to you by M&T Bank, DHMH, and the Sherman Family Foundation.
Are you struggling with your mortgage payments? Call 888-995-HOPE to talk one-on-one with a housing expert about your options. Or visit makinghomeaffordable.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Treasury, HUD, and the Ad Council.
Come alive with the forest. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a forest near you. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Burke Syme here, owner of Service Photo, Maryland's only full-service camera store that buys, sells, rents, and repairs all types of camera gear every day. We've got the best brands of cameras and accessories like Nikon, Canon, Fuji, and so many others, all at guaranteed low prices, along with something that no one else in Maryland can offer, expert guidance and instruction, plus continued support throughout the life of your products. Service Photo has been working with photography enthusiasts for over 60 years, and now we want to work with you. If you need anything camera or photo related, stay away from the big box stores and internet sites. Make the smart choice and talk to the local pros at Service Photo for the best items, low prices, plus expert guidance and support. We'll even buy your used cameras or accept them in trade toward new purchases. Service Photo is conveniently located at 3838 Falls Road in the Hamden neighborhood of Baltimore. For more info and directions, Google Service Photo. Call 410-235-6200 or go to servicephoto.com.
800-470-7565.
The rich are getting richer. How about you? Sitting on the sidelines will get you nowhere. So what's your next move? What if you could learn how to make real money when the market goes up or down, all while protecting your hard-earned capital? Over 230,000 people have experienced Online Trading Academy's unique trading education, and now you can too. Wait a minute. Before you say, oh no, that's not for me, just hear me out. I want to invite you to a free 2-hour trading class so you can check this out. And if you call now, we'll include a video guide worth $247 just for attending. Think about it. What is your money doing for you in a CD or mutual fund? Call right now while seats are still available at 888-316-TRADE. That's 888-316-8723 or online at otaclass.com. This could really change everything. Call now, 888-316-TRADE. 888-316-8723 or otaclass.com.
WBAL, WIYY, HD2 Baltimore.
From the WBAL Broadcast Center with Maryland's largest news team, this is WBAL News Radio 1090, Baltimore.
We are bringing you special team live coverage of the looting and the rioting happening in certain parts of Baltimore City. We want to go now to Congressman Elijah Cummings, who's on WBAL-TV.
Department, they then can turn in the opposite direction because they get distracted by people who don't abide by rules and begin to break into stores and throw things at police officers. That's just not the way you get anything done.
Yeah.
You just don't.
Yeah. Congressman, over the weekend. Yes, sir. Over the weekend, we heard it from the mayor. We heard it from the police commissioner. It was their belief that most of the trouble that was started on Saturday was by outsiders. But as it turns out, after they were processed, most of these people were from Baltimore. Are you sensing these are Baltimore young people doing this, or do you still believe there are outsiders coming in agitating?
Oh, I think it's mostly Baltimore people involved, but I think you have people who come in, and I actually saw it myself where you had outside people, and I think this is where the confusion came in. Outside people were down by the stadium the other night, and they said we're gonna shut this blank down. Mm-hmm. And the next thing you know, we saw all kinds of problems.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is that some of the instigating was by outside people, but clearly, Dan, this is a situation where we have people right here in Baltimore, many of whom are frustrated, many of whom are angry about the Freddie Gray case, and then you have some who just want to take advantage of a situation that may look at times to be chaotic, and take advantage of it. And I think that's what you have. So what I've been urging people to do is to remember that this is our city, that after all the cameras are gone, we still have to live here.
Exactly.
And so I'm hoping that people will, go home and not be coming out tonight and doing negative things.
Yeah. Congressman, would you say a word about law enforcement and how they've responded to this? My personal view is they have shown a great deal of restraint despite being peppered with bottles, bricks, rocks, what have you.
I have seen it firsthand. I mean, I've waded out into it, and I've seen it. They have taken a lot of abuse, and I don't care how you look at it. And I got to give it to them. I've seen them being belted with drinks and people throwing bricks and all this, and they really showed tremendous restraint. And but Stan, at some point, people are human, and these officers are human, and I don't care how much training you have, those things can flare up, and the next thing you know, you've got major problems. And so I've been urging people not to get, if they want to demonstrate and protest peacefully, that's one thing. But if they're not going to do it that way, don't do it at all.
Yeah.
And so I continue to do that.
Yeah. At some point, patience is going to run out, and the city has to maintain control of the city from a public safety point of view. At this point, we now have officers who have been given an order. In order to do that, you've got to get people off the street. And, that's going to open the door for other people saying, see, more police brutality. But come on, we have to look at this fairly. You got people who are wreaking havoc, and they can't continue to do this, Congressman.
Stan, I agree with you. And that's why I'm telling people, there are people right now, Stan, who know that they've got relatives out there and being involved in this kind of negative activity. They need to be tweeting and emailing and telling them to go home, and come home, rather.
All right.
Because it makes no sense. And I tell you, I'm going to do everything in my power to convince people that only peaceful protests are appropriate. And again, if they want to do anything else, they need to understand that they are not only subjecting themselves to possible harm, but but probable arrest.
Wow.
And so they need to be aware of that.
Yeah, Congressman, I've seen you in the middle of it before, and I'm confident you're going to be right there on the front lines as well. Thank you for your time, Congressman, and we hope to talk to you again this evening. Thank you very much.
All right.
We have been watching over here on the screen live from Sky Team 11. People running into a 7-Eleven that the door was open with a baseball bat, and then they ran out just as quickly. I'm sure there was somebody standing behind the counter with a shotgun. And this is a corner liquor store that's obviously being looted. People running in, grabbing things, coming out. You saw that police armored vehicle going down the street. People crashing bottles onto it as it went by really, really quickly. But still people piling into this corner store. This is just such a disturbing, horrific scene.
You know, people work very hard.
The lawless element has taken over this section of the city.
People work very hard. They save up to get their business going, what have you. And you can imagine how upset they would be if somebody wants to take that away from you. And some of them may want to respond violently. I hope that they don't. But sometimes they're not left any choice.
Okay, Kai Reed, where are you right now? I know you're joining us by phone.
I'm standing right at the intersection of Pennsylvania Avenue and North Avenue. There is a line of police officers in tactical gear.
Okay, so they've moved down there.
Correct. They're standing still right now. We did hear some rubber bullets. I know some members of the media tried to get up close to that line, and they ran back saying that they were shooting rubber bullets. And there are people still just kind of standing around. I'm actually looking at two people right now jumping on top of a police car. There are people going in and out of the police car. Before we saw this line of police officers, there was a good hour and a half where there was no presence here at all. And I'll tell you, personally, I've never seen anything like this before in my life.
I'm sure. Me either.
The people running, the screaming. There were some scary moments. I did personally see a photographer chased by a couple of people, and they were beating him pretty badly. Thank goodness there was an MTA bus a block down, and his reporter who was with him tried to block the folks who were trying to attack him, and he ran into an MTA bus, and it looked like he was okay from there. But at that point is when I realized, this is really an out-of-control situation.
It's for real.
You're listening to WBAL-TV's Kai Reed describing what it was like to be on the corner of North Avenue and Pennsylvania, or North and Pennsylvania, I believe she said, where there was virtually no police presence. And of course, we heard Captain Eric Kowalczyk talk about that they had to sort of deploy in various areas. And there were some areas where violence broke out and they couldn't be there for that.
Because they have to worry about keeping the police safe. You can't send 2 or 3 guys in there. And now CNN is reporting that they're sending 1,000 police officers into the city.
Well, so far, the only thing that we know of that's going on in the city tonight is the Oriole game.
Right.
At this point, it is still going on. It's 7:05. There are, not all the gates are open, but a couple of gates are open. There are a couple of people going there. And police have made a very wide perimeter this time around Camden Yards, so we can see where a lot of that manpower is going. WBAL's Jim Russ has been downtown for us all afternoon, and he can sort of set the scene now. Jim?
It is very quiet down here. I just came back and took a look at Camden Yards. The only gate that is open is the one on the north side of the stadium at Utah Street that enters in from Babe Ruth Plaza. There is a heavy police presence out there. Baltimore police officers in riot gear guarding the entrance to the Camden Yards. They are behind bicycle racks. You have to get through them in order to get to the metal detectors and inside the ballpark. Based on my cursory view, looking over the fence from the Camden Street side, I saw maybe 100 fans inside. Batting practice was underway. I actually saw a few people going into Camden Yards a few minutes ago. But other than that, it is very quiet. The only people that I see on the streets down here right now either work at University of Maryland Hospital, because I see them walking around in scrubs, or people that live in the buildings around here. Parking garages have been gated up. The gates that are usually closed overnight are down. The garage that I park in, there's only one entrance and one entrance and one exit open, and they are being manned currently by personnel who can quickly close the gates if they have to. I walked through the parking, or the lobby of the Hilton on Pratt Street. There are people sitting at the bar, right near a big plate glass window, eating dinner and watching CNN of what is happening not far from here. And as I walked back to the apartment a few minutes ago, I witnessed at least a dozen Baltimore police cars screaming down Lombard Street going west toward MLK. And I also noticed that the Foxtrot was hovering not far north of us, just north of the University of Maryland complex.
Jim, which begs the question, I know why you're there, but did you ask anyone why they would come downtown, why they would sit at a bar, why they would attempt to come to this game? I'm just curious.
Quite honestly, I ran to my car to get some gear, and I figured I would get it now while it was safe. So I didn't waste a whole lot of time going and coming. So I went, took a look at what I needed to look at, got the stuff I needed, and got back inside.
Can't say I blame you.
I don't know when it's going to happen, and I don't want to be outside when it does.
And we should point out there is no real protest element to this, and has not been since the very beginning today. It has simply been violence on the streets. Now we can see a huge crowd of people, dozens have converged on a cell phone store somewhere downtown, and they're pushing each other into that building to try to get in and pull stuff out.
Jim and everyone, we just got a statement from the governor. He says Governor Larry Hogan is closely monitoring the situation and has been in contact with the mayor to provide the city with whatever resources it needs. Quote, today's looting and acts of violence will not be tolerated. In response, I have put the Maryland National Guard on alert so they can be in the position to deploy rapidly as needed. I strongly condemn the actions of the offenders who are engaged in direct attacks against innocent civilians, businesses, and law enforcement officers. There is a significant difference between protesting and violence, and those committing these acts will be prosecuted under the fullest extent of the law. My thoughts and prayers go out to the men and women in uniform who are actively working to stem this violence, and several who have been injured in the line of duty. These malicious attacks against law enforcement and local communities only betray the cause of peaceful citizens seeking answers and justice following the death of Freddie Gray. And that is a statement from Governor Larry Hogan into WBAL just moments ago.
And if you're a lifetime Baltimorean like I am, this harkens back, I mean, the last time I can remember anything on this magnitude was 1968 in the riots that followed the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. That was the kind of picture I had in my mind of what that happened when we were kids.
Well, and I have to say, when I watched what was happening in Ferguson, I never thought it would happen here.
Right.
But this almost seems worse. So now we have the National Guard on standby.
47 years later, we're back to the same
here we
point.
are. Here we are. And the city has activated the Emergency Operations Center. That is all we've heard about that, and that's coming from the Baltimore Sun. We have not yet heard from the mayor, hoping that we will soon. We did hear from the Reverend Jamal Bryant, who spoke at Freddie Gray's funeral today, a place where they grieved for this man who lost his life after being in police custody. And the family called for peace, and the people who spoke called for peace. And so the Reverend Bryant got out on the street and said, people, this is not the way to get justice. Violence is not the way. And the interesting thing is, of course, the rioters are not watching TV. You know, they're not listening to us.
The ones who started it were in school.
So police have gone this route. They're talking to the parents. They know your kids have their phones. They might even be tweeting out pictures or taking pictures of what they're doing. Call your kids and tell them to come home. Talking about the juveniles are wrapped up in all of this. Not that all of them are, but a lot of them are. Jim Russ joins us again downtown. Jim?
Yeah, based on what one of my Twitter followers asked, they were asking about Camden Line trains, and I've been able to determine that Camden Line trains are still running to and from Baltimore. There are 2 trains that are due in. They are scheduled on time, one coming in at about 6:17, another at 6:32. There is a southbound departure at 6:15, train 859. That is scheduled to depart on time. And there was also a train that was scheduled to depart at 6:28. That has now been pushed back to 6:31. That is 859. That's a southbound train. So trains are still coming in and out of Camden Station.
Jim, thank you.
I want to read another tweet that we just got in. This is, of course, from Montel Williams, who, of course, grew up in Cherry Hill. He says, quote, in capital letters, we need peace in Baltimore. There's good reason to be frustrated. There is no justification for this. And we're going to go back to, can we go back to TV? Can we go back to Roy Taylor?
Freddie Gray. So we know that the National Guard is on standby, and that's key. We've been wondering that all day. And you also have something else interesting to add.
Yes, well, and as we've been watching this group, the Baltimore police call them groups of violent individuals, continue to loot, throw bricks, throw bottles and other dangerous items, including at police cars with officers inside of them. We've also watched groups of what looks like older adult men in suits trying to get between the stores and the groups attempting to loot them, and we saw them be successful in a couple of cases. But we've also been following what's going on at Camden Yards. The game right now is still going on, the game with the White Sox at 7:05. Jim Russ, from our partner from BAL Radio, says right now Utah Street is the only gate open. It's under heavy guard by Baltimore City Police. He says he has been seeing people go into the game. However, all 4 bars on Paca Street across from Camden Yards are closed. And we happen to know, thanks to our WBAL Sports Department, that the commissioner of baseball, Rob Manfred, just happens to be at the game right now.
You've been listening to WBAL-TV's Kate Amara talking about the game tonight. Captain Eric Kowalczyk of Baltimore City Police has really been the face of information for us all afternoon, and he joins us now. Captain, thanks for being with us. Eric, we appreciate it. We know you're busy.
It's my pleasure to be here. Thank you for the opportunity. I think it's really important that we continue to try to keep people with as much information as up-to-date as we can. What I can tell you right now is that our officers are continuing to move resources and personnel into positions so that we can, obviously our highest priority right now has to be protecting life. That's the life of our officers and the life of the people that live and work in that area. Earlier today, you heard me talk about the fact that we had 7 of our officers viciously attacked, and we want to make sure that that doesn't happen again. So right now, when we talk about moving,
is that the current number? Is that number still current?
That's the latest number that I have. I'll be honest, I've been doing briefings for like the last 30 minutes, so we're going to go and get some more updated information. We're going to continue to brief people, but what we want to get out is that as we're moving our resources, what that means is that in a very safe and tactical manner, we're getting officers deployed to where they need to be. We don't want to get any more of our officers hurt, and we don't want to rush too quickly. We don't want to see anyone else injured. So what you're going to see us doing is using crowd control techniques, some of which we've already used this evening in terms of tear gas and other resources that we have to try to bring this to a peaceful resolution. One of the things that we have asked for on our social media sites is that for parents that are out in the city to please be responsible and take control of their children. We know that a large number of people that are involved in this are kids. We don't want to see any of them get hurt. We don't want to see any of them be arrested unnecessarily. So for us, it's very important that parents find their children, take control of them before any of them get hurt or go to jail. We don't want to see that happen. Earlier this morning, we put out an update about the fact that the gentleman in that now infamous picture standing on top of one of our cars in the blue hoodie who had smashed out all the windows, we took him into custody this morning. Our detectives are very good at using information that's readily available and tracking down people who are responsible.
Finding the troublemakers.
Exactly.
Can you tell us, Eric, where the hot spots are right now, and where is the priority for you?
The priority for us is protecting life. So anywhere that we're seeing...
But, for example, you're surrounding Camden Yards. So has that become now a priority?
Well, we know that there's a large number of people that are coming down for the game. So in order to protect them, in order to ensure their safety, we have officers in that area.
Did you ask the Orioles to cancel the game at any point?
I'm sorry, I missed that.
Did you ask the Orioles at any point to consider canceling the game?
I don't know if those conversations took place. What I do know is that we have officers across the city that are maintaining police services. Restaurants are open, bars are open, stores are open across the city. We're maintaining our normal level of police service. The city is functioning. What you're seeing here is an area around Mondawmin and then down a little bit that has been impacted.
We're hearing West North Avenue and North Fulton. Is that kind of a dangerous area right now?
The last information that I had was that there was some activity on North Avenue. Again, we're using our social media sites to keep people apprised of the very latest locations. And what I want to stress is that with the assistance of our regional partners, who have been so kind and so generous to provide assistance to us today and in the days before, we're going to continue to work smartly and safely to bring this to a peaceful resolution.
You asked, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, Bill.
You asked parents to get in touch with their kids to get them off. This was started by kids, obviously. We saw them coming out of school and starting this. But from the video, it's clear that kids may be in the minority at this point. There are a lot of adults out there causing havoc right now.
Yeah, and we know that there are adults out there. When you talk about protecting life, and that for us, protecting life is our highest priority, nothing can be more important than protecting the life of kids. And so for us, getting those kids off the street, having their parents come take them and take control and custody of them before they're injured, before something happens that's outside of our control. And we've seen fights break out in these crowds before. We don't want to see any of that happen. We don't want to see anyone be arrested. Even if it's the minority at this point, we want parents to get their kids and and be responsible for them, and that our kids are safe.
Eric, we've seen some video from the aerial shots that we have of members of the Nation of Islam, at least they look to be, talking to some of the rioters, some of the looters. Are they helping you? Are they not helping you? Are you encouraged by that?
You know, when I was waiting to go live on the air with another station, I heard somebody, and I wish I knew who it was, calling for a line of Baltimoreans to stand between the violence in the city. That's the Baltimore that we're used to. That's the Baltimore that we know. It's a city that's had 40 years of peaceful protest, a peaceful expression of their First Amendment rights. And so anybody that joins and calls for calm, calls for peace, clearly that's what we want to have happen in this situation.
Captain Eric Kowalczyk, and just we have a little bit of breaking news to bring you while you're joining us on the phone.
Brett Hollander's here, and this may go down as better late than never, Brett.
Yeah, Bill, the Orioles have tweeted it out. The game tonight has been postponed against the Chicago White Sox, so there will be no baseball tonight in downtown Baltimore. They were able to play through on Saturday with everything going around outside in downtown Baltimore on Saturday, but they have called tonight's game. I've not seen anything about a makeup date or what they will do in the future.
Says an announcement regarding a makeup date will be made ASAP. Fans are encouraged to keep their tickets and parking until more information is available.
So that's it. So no baseball tonight at Camden
Captain,
Yards.
are you still with us?
I am.
So will this change now, theoretically, where you are and what you do, and will this free up your officers?
You know, you're giving me breaking news. I need to go back and find out what our resource deployment is going to look like. What I can tell you is that we're going to continue to keep the media informed. I know that everyone's working really hard to keep the city and the surrounding area informed about what's going on, so we're going to work just as hard to give you the most up-to-date information.
Eric, we had heard earlier today that the police were actually telling people to stay out of the Inner Harbor on megaphone. Can you confirm that?
I don't have that information. Okay. I had not heard that. I'll look into that for you, though, sir.
CNN just a few minutes ago ran a banner that said 1,000-plus police officers are being deployed in Baltimore. Where are they all coming from at this point?
You know, we have a large number of officers. We had canceled leave, and so we brought a large number of officers in. And again, we've talked to our regional partners and asked them for their assistance, and we're very grateful that they're providing us resources as well.
Is that enough at this point?
You know, I don't want to speculate about what is or is not enough. What I know is that our command team in the Watch Center and over at the EOC are working to put resources where they need to be so that we can bring this situation to a peaceful conclusion, and hopefully I'll have more and better updated information for you shortly on that.
Eric, the officer who was unconscious, is he or she, have they improved?
I have not gotten an update. Our first concern, obviously, with those officers was making sure that they received medical treatment. They were transported to area hospitals where that's currently happening. Like I said, this is a dynamic situation, so we're going to try to get information out as quickly as we can. We're using Twitter at Baltimore Police to do that, and we're going to continue to keep doing these interviews, talking to you so that we can provide the latest information that we're able to.
Where's the commissioner?
The commissioner is directing the resources and the responses of the police department.
Where?
He's been here all day long. He does it from a number of different locations, depending on excuse me, I've been talking a lot. He does that from a number of different locations, but he is in charge of the organization. He's in charge of the effort on the ground, and he has been at it since very early this morning.
Thank you, Captain Eric Kowalczyk, the spokesman for the Baltimore City Police Department, spending his time with us this afternoon, bringing us up to date on the deployment of police officers. WBAL News Radio 1090, Scott Wykoff is on the road now after spending most of the afternoon at Mondawmin Mall, where this whole episode started. Really pretty much, Scott, at the crack of 3 o'clock when Douglas High School let out. Students came out, and right from the beginning there was trouble, which has just snowballed through the afternoon. Where are you now?
I'm at the Inner Harbor now, Bill, and it is an eerie sight here. I'm right on McKeldin Square, and as I look across the street, Light Street, where it comes on to actually Calvert, where it comes on to Pratt, I'm seeing dozens of police officers with their full tactical gear on as they stand between themselves and the water itself. in the Inner Harbor. I look across caddy corner to that. Our colleague Jayne Miller and Lowell Meltzer are standing right at the corner of Pratt and Calvert on an empty corner, but behind them, again, a number of tactical police officers in front of the Galleria. Caddy corner to the Galleria. There's a restaurant in the corner, Brio, the Tuscan Grill. That door at the Brio Tuscan Grill is blocked by police officers in tactical gear. I got here in no time at all from Mondawmin Mall. A clear shot. I did divert off of Reisterstown Road because I knew my colleague from WBAL-TV, Kai Reed, was over at the disturbance there at North and Pennsylvania Avenue. So I brought my resources down here, and it really is an amazing scene. It reminds me of almost the scene, because there's so few cars, it reminds me of almost the scene on 9/11 back in D.C. And I was and I shared that with Brian Neiman. He and I were working together that evening, and he was out and about, and he said it was unbelievable to be on Pennsylvania Avenue.
Yeah, Scott, the CVS that was looted earlier apparently is now on fire. And I want to make one moment here, too. We've just learned this. This is brand new information. New Attorney General Loretta Lynch, who was sworn in today, has updated the president on events in Baltimore. The president has also spoke with the mayor today, and an advisor has also spoken with Governor Larry Hogan.
Yeah, we can see a large police contingent outside that CVS. Captain Roy's about it.
Right now, a lot of smoke.
Pennsylvania Avenue and on the west side of Pennsylvania Avenue. As any type of emergency vehicle drives by, they end up pelting it with rocks and taking baseball bats and hitting the windshields, and it's just not safe.
Yeah.
So how can they get in here to
no, of course. And it's so much damage has been done. They would be crazy to put their lives on the line for a store that's already on fire at this point, I think. And also we wanted to pass along
a housing complex that's just behind the CVS. I'll try and get Bridget to pull out here. And if this goes up in flames, what's going to happen with that?
I don't know.
You know,
I don't know. So, because those are very, very close, and that could become a big fire. I don't know, Roy. Yeah. We're going to have to wait and see. We want to pass along a quick note. We had a tweet that perhaps Towson Town Center was closing, but it is open. They have no plans to close at this point, so that was not true.
Yeah, listen, we have just got a word that this afternoon the swearing-in was held. President Obama swore in and then met with the new Attorney General, Loretta Lynch, at the White House today. And the Attorney General has said that she has been monitoring, as well as the President has been monitoring the situation here in Baltimore in light of the death of Freddie Gray. The Attorney General assured the President she would continue to monitor the events in Baltimore, and that the Department of Justice stands ready to provide any assistance that might be helpful as far as the investigation. Earlier today, the President also said he spoke with Baltimore Mayor Stephanie Rawlings Blake about the ongoing situation here in Baltimore. The mayor updated the President on all the efforts to address the demonstrations and maintain the peace throughout the city. And the President highlighted the administration's commitment to provide assistance as needed, and will continue to receive updates on the situation from Attorney General Lynch and White House Senior Advisor Valerie Jarrett. Jarrett, I understand, also spoke with Maryland Governor Larry Hogan earlier today, who has also been keeping them informed. So the White House, the President, the Attorney General in Washington, they are watching and monitoring the situation here in Baltimore, and are offering any assistance that they can to help Mayor Stephanie Rawlings Blake get things back under control.
Get it back under control, for sure. Again, we have heard another thing from the Orioles. They say that they're still waiting for a makeup date. They don't know exactly when the game tonight has definitively been canceled. Fans are going, the few that are there are going home. So they don't have a makeup date yet, but they say please keep your tickets and your parking passes, and you'll be getting more information about all of that. But don't get rid of any of it, because it will be good at a later date.
Smart move by the Orioles.
Oh, absolutely. You can't have a game in the conditions like this.
Now, I wonder if the demonstrators have heard, again, I'm using the word demonstrators. These are not demonstrators. I wonder if this group has heard there's no...
You've been listening to our sister station, WBAL-TV. We owe you a traffic report, because there are a lot of people who are not in Baltimore, and they are trying to get around Baltimore, and for that, they need this information.
WBAL WBAL News Radio 1090 traffic.
And right you are, Bill. There's a lot of folks that are stuck on 695 right now. They're kind of a late-breaking rush hour as far as the Beltway is concerned, because a lot of folks just didn't want to move into downtown. And those routes that they would normally use, they've decided to use the Beltway. Not a bad idea, but they're stuck in traffic on the inner loop. For instance, the jam up begins at the BW Parkway, and it goes all the way out toward Liberty. Most of that stop and go. More slow traffic in the Pikesville area, but that area is beginning to thin out, but a little bit of slow traffic still left over as you move through that area. And then once again, a lot of stop and go from like Falls Road, and that's going to go out toward Long Craven Boulevard. It looks like traffic at the tunnels is beginning to improve, at least at the Fort McHenry. The Harbor Tunnel still jammed up in the 97 spur, so really not much of improvement there. Outside the Beltway, we're okay shape once again, 795. Harrisburg, I-70 shows about a mile of heavy traffic inbound, and looks like traffic is in much better shape along 95 in both directions as you make your approach to the Beltway, where earlier we had a lot of jammed up traffic. We're still looking at some light rail closures, and also some of the metro stations are still not operating at this point because of the alert in the downtown area. So we'll keep you posted as far as that's concerned and get back in the next few moments. This update brought to you by Account Temps, providing salary ranges for more than 375 accounting and finance jobs. An overview of current hiring environment as well. Learn more by visiting accounttemps.com/salary center. Account Temps, a Robert Half company. I'm Dave Sandler. News, traffic, and weather 24/7 on WBAL News Radio 1090.
Caroline Center presents The Wizard of Oz Sing-Along at the Hippodrome Theater. It's the classic 1939 film starring Judy Garland in Technicolor and on the big screen with sing-along lyrics. Tickets are now on sale at the Hippodrome box office or Ticketmaster.com for one amazing performance only, May 8th at 7 p.m. Every ticket helps underserved women in Baltimore receive an education and professional skills training so they can create better lives for themselves and their families. For more information, visit the web at caroline-center.org.
This is WBAL News Radio 1090C4. The Maryland Rural Development Corporation Head Start program is now accepting applications for the 2015 fall session for children born in 2011 and 2012. This comprehensive program consists of education, health, nutrition, and family services. The program is specially designed to meet the needs of low-income and special needs children and their families. For more information, please call Brittany Ayers at 410-398-6638 extension 14.
Come alive with the forest. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a forest near you. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
A good estate plan means having an up-to-date will, a Maryland power of attorney that's no more than 4 years old, and appointing a family member as your agent for life and death decisions if you're unable to act. I'm attorney Kevin Bress with the law firm Pessin Katz Law. Our experienced estate planning attorneys not only can review and update these documents for you, but can explain how passing your assets on in trust can protect them for generations to come. Our law offices in Harford County, Baltimore County, and Howard County have been serving families in the area for 25 years. Call us at 410-938-8800 to set up a comprehensive review of your legal documents. That number's 410-938-8800. Or visit us at pklaw.com.
Not available in all areas. This is a special edition of Maryland's News Now. Violence in northwestern Baltimore. Here is Mary Beth Marsden on WBAL News Radio 1090.
And we've been with you all afternoon as looters and rioters wreak havoc on certain neighborhoods in Baltimore. Right now, a CVS pharmacy at the corner of North Avenue in Pennsylvania, fully involved, on fire, set on fire by looters. Police were able to let the firefighters get through. They are now trying to battle this fire. Smoke can be seen everywhere around that section of town. The Orioles game canceled, or rather postponed for tonight because of the violence. And police are still on the scene at Mondawmin Mall, where all of this really started this afternoon once school let out.
It really did. At the instant that school let out at Douglas High School, which is literally right across the street from Mondawmin Mall, students came out of their school and ran a gauntlet of police. Police were not taken by surprise by this because this had been on social media as rumors since early this morning that there would be trouble after schools got out, and that trouble throughout the day began to focus on Mondawmin Mall. The kids came out, went past police. Some of them literally, as they came out of school, had their hands up, went past police, got out on the street, and broke into a run to the 7-Eleven down the street, where they ran in, ran out very quickly. Some of them had grabbed stuff inside. The 7-Eleven did not appear to suffer a lot of damage. There was just a brief in and out a couple of times. And then there was this standoff between police and the kids outside Mondawmin Mall, which over the course of an hour kind of degraded into rock throwing, bricks, and as we heard from Captain Eric Kowalczyk a short time ago, 7 officers were hurt in that confrontation. Then the crowd took off down Reisterstown Road onto Pennsylvania Avenue, and now they've made it all the way downtown, looting as they go.
Looting, going into pharmacies, going into check cashing stores, going into liquor stores.
Any place they could get in. We saw them try to get into one store where they apparently had plexiglass windows or something and couldn't get in the front, so they just went to the next one.
We are told that the mayor is monitoring the situation going on in the city right now at the Emergency Operations Center very closely, and she is expected to make herself available to the media in about an hour. We're being told that here in the building. So that's the latest on where the mayor is and what she is doing.
And Phil, as you reported a little earlier, President Obama actually talked with Mayor Stephanie Rawlings-Blake. We just got some notice from the White House.
I did, and I want to read through that memo if I can find it here.
I have it in my hand.
Oh,
would you like me to read it?
Go ahead. There you go.
Earlier today, the president spoke with Mayor Stephanie Rawlings-Blake about the ongoing situation in Baltimore. The mayor updated the president on efforts to address the demonstrations and maintain peace throughout the city. The president highlighted the administration's commitment to provide assistance as needed and will continue to receive updates on the situation from Attorney General Lynch, who, by the way, was just sworn in today. So this was her first day. And White House Senior Advisor Valerie Jarrett. Jarrett also spoke with Maryland Governor Larry Hogan. Hogan said today that he would have the National Guard on standby, that he, too, was monitoring the situation.
I wonder what point, though, it takes to get that to happen.
The mayor has to, if I remember correctly, the mayor has to request it and request it to the governor, at which point he activates, because he's the only one that can activate it. WBAL News Radio 1090's Jim Russ has been downtown all day. We sent him over to Oriole Park at Camden Yards earlier to watch people, the few who were willing to brave it, come in to a game that has now been canceled. People trying to get out of town now, Jim, or have they gone to restaurants? What are they doing down there?
Well, they're trying to get out of town. There were no more than 100 people that I could see at the game as I walked past. The players, according to traffic I've seen on Twitter, have all gotten into their cars and have left the ballpark. Based on some of the information I've been getting off of Twitter from some of my followers, there has been damage in the Mount Vernon area. Trinacria, which is a restaurant at the corner of at Park Avenue and Central Avenue. There is a window smash there, and also at the Charleston Center, the windows have been smashed out of the 7-Eleven. Another one of my followers who's up at Penn Station says that there's been an announcement made inside Penn Station that people riding trains should wait inside Penn Station for their safety and should not venture outside. Guys,
and this is a completely different part of town that we've been focused on so far through this afternoon.
This is now in the Mount Vernon Midtown area.
So it's sort of fears and also examples of just general lawlessness.
Yep, exactly. And also hearing now that the city fire department, because of the intensity of this fire, it's the CVS at Pennsylvania North, exterior operations only, meaning they don't want anybody inside that building.
So they're letting it burn.
We've seen some of the smoke has changed from dark to light, which usually means they're getting it out. They've got some ladders up to the roof, but there's also the building is surrounded by a phalanx of police officers, and behind that there are still people who were there from the very beginning behind the cops. So it's very difficult to tell exactly what the dynamic there is right now as the fire department tries to put the flames out.
If there's any good news coming out of that, CVS has apparently tweeted that no employees were injured during either the riots or the fire, so everyone got out safely.
Yeah, they were at Mondawmin Mall. Police, knowing this was coming, had the place pretty much surrounded. Our Scott Wykoff was there all afternoon. There were lines of police officers that kept the people that came out of the school and went down. Kwesi Mfume, former congressman, and now talking to Channel 11 here. We'll go to them.
Calm down younger men who are very, very angry. But at some point in time, if what we see continues, I think the police don't have any other response except an effort to protect the people who live in the communities, the property that they own, and to restore order would be to go in and to try to disperse the larger crowds into smaller units, and if necessary, start making arrests then.
Yeah. Okay. All right, Kwesi Mfume, thank you for calling and sharing your thoughts on what's happening here. And as you said, you haven't seen the likes of this since April 4th, 1968. The word riot was thrown out there earlier this afternoon, and I sort of cringed at the use of that word because it wasn't like it was in 1968. It still isn't.
It wasn't, and it still isn't. And let me tell you, this represents years and years and years of pent-up frustrations, pent-up anger, being treated as if you were somehow different because of the color of your skin. A police department that has oftentimes planted drugs on people or took advantage of their rights, and it has made the good officers look very, very bad, and the bad officers look very, very suspicious. And so the average person on the streets, particularly in these communities who grew up as I did, know that. That's been part of the history. The problem here, though, is that you've got a group of young men and a younger generation that is just determined that they're going to fight back and strike back in the only way they can. And unfortunately, what turned peaceful has now turned into a very violent situation.
All right. Former Congressman Kwesi Mfume, thank you, sir. We appreciate you calling in.
Right now, we're going to check back.
You've been listening to Channel 11's coverage, interview with former Congressman Kwesi Mfume, who has a long history here in Baltimore.
Former NAACP president. At the funeral today.
Sure. And as we hearken back to 1968, the one word that we heard often back then was curfew, which we have not heard today at any point, but it begs the question.
I've heard some bring that up as a question, and we are expecting to hear from the mayor, we believe, within the hour. WBAL-TV's Lowell Meltzer is on his way to the command center, the emergency operations center, where she's said to be getting briefed on the situation. So hopefully we'll get some clarification on that, or just hear in general what she plans on doing.
Yeah, because at this point, you don't want to speculate or categorize, but it doesn't appear that the situation is any more in hand than it was 2 or 3 hours ago.
Scott Wykoff was there right from the beginning when it really started today, and he is now on the road. Let's find out where he is and what he's seeing. Scott?
Mary Beth, Bill, Phil, I'm at the Inner Harbor right now, right here in McKeldin Square. And again, a very eerie sight at 6:40-something on a Monday when there's a ball game in town. Baltimore's Main Street, Pratt Street. Very, very few people driving on the road right now. A huge, huge police presence down here on all four corners of the Inner Harbor as you would look at Pratt and Calvert. Police on each and every one of those corners right now. There's no disturbance going on here. I haven't seen anyone running through the streets here, but they are ready. When I did drive by North Avenue and Pennsylvania Avenue, the smoke was billowing, and as I drove through the neighborhoods just adjacent to that, a few blocks away, a number of people just on their porches on this relatively cool spring evening, and a lot of them, as I drove by, I kind of looked at them and held my hands up, and they just kind of shaking their heads at what was going on just a few blocks from where they were. And I just saw a jogger now move by some of the police applauding them as he jogs through the Inner Harbor right now. So it's a case of a lot of people in disbelief. And I tell you, when I first got to Mondawmin Mall, when we had gotten that intelligence this afternoon, I got there about 2:30, there were maybe 15 police officers. And I don't think they expected what happened there. And it happened very quickly. The police department got a huge deployment there, and when we eventually hear from Police Commissioner Batts about this afternoon, and hopefully not about anything tonight, we'll hear what he has to say, because he was smack dab, guys, right in the middle of it. When the rocks were being thrown, when the bricks were being thrown, when the police were in the street being assaulted by what Eric Kowalczyk described as the violent criminals, the lawless individuals, Commissioner Batts was right in the middle of it.
And all of this, Scott, came after Freddie Gray's funeral today at the new Shiloh Baptist Church in West Baltimore. A very somber and peaceful affair that included representatives from the White House, Baltimore's religious and political community, and hundreds of just plain folks.
3,000 family, friends, dignitaries, and even strangers filling Baltimore's new Shiloh Baptist Church. Prayers to hold city officials accountable for his death. Gray's mother openly weeping, crying out, "Oh, my baby, my baby." Others promised to break down the blue wall of silence. The funeral was peaceful, and demonstrators stayed away for the most part, a few shouting slogans outside. But police wisely stayed away, and there were no confrontations. Jim Avila, ABC News, Baltimore.
After that, there were several hours of calm, which were punctuated by the fact that police announced early today that they had credible intelligence saying that the gangs, the most notorious gangs in Baltimore, the Bloods, the Crips, the Black Guerrilla family, had entered into a sort of unholy alliance whose goal was to take out, and that was the police department's very words, take out law enforcement officers. They asked that the threat be publicized to law enforcement agencies all over the country, as a matter of fact. We were going down that path when at 3 o'clock, Douglas High School dismissed its students, and it's been downhill ever since, Mary Beth.
Yeah, and that in and of itself was highly unusual, just to see an email like that from police in bold letters talking about this credible information that they had. Mm-hmm. Yet this afternoon, we're not really seeing a lot of finger pointing in that direction.
And police, they... Mostly, even less than that,
yeah.
They would not draw the connection between it.
Right.
Captain
Mostly
Eric
what we're
Kowalczyk
hearing at this point is they're worried about the young people. They don't want the young people to get hurt, for one, and they want them to go home. And so they've just been appealing to the parents to contact your kids and tell them to come home. This is no way to solve anything.
The Charm City Circulator has been suspended for the evening.
Well, I was worried about that. Thank you.
Well, you know what, though? But I think it's a part of it. I mean, it's just not safe to be out there.
It is.
It's not safe to be out there. And also, I don't know what this is related to, but the Cook Library on the campus of Towson University apparently has been evacuated. We'll work on that, see what information we can get. We don't know what the story there is.
And as we heard from Jim just a few minutes ago, there have been reports of problems now in a completely different part of town, the center part of the city near Mount Vernon. Not quite sure what that's about at this point either.
Well, people are out taking the opportunity to smash windows, and no one's around. And, you know, the police are stretched thin. I don't care how many officers they have in town right now. They can't be everywhere. And right now there's a CVS pharmacy fully involved in flames, and firefighters are keeping it contained, but basically letting it burn.
But they're doing that under a veil of blue
yes, they have to
vested police officers.
So the police officers have to have a perimeter there to keep people away and let the firefighters in to do what job that they can do. But that pharmacy is now lost at the corner there of North and Pennsylvania.
Just about a half hour ago, less than an hour before game time, the Orioles finally announced that after consultation with the Baltimore Police Department, tonight's game between the Orioles and White Sox had been postponed. They had opened the gates. They had allowed people in. Not many took the opportunity. But now they say an announcement regarding a makeup date will be made at some time in the future.
We've
Stay
had
tuned.
Dozens of police officers joining the Baltimore City Police Force from Anne Arundel County, Howard County, Baltimore County, State Police. They're sending more tonight. We've heard reports of seeing police cruisers coming around 695 and heading down the JFX to assist. We do know the National Guard is on standby, according to the governor. And we are basically, at this point, I think, waiting to hear from Mayor Stephanie Rawlings-Blake, who is in the Emergency Operations Center, and she's expected to speak to the media and hopefully to her citizens coming up within the hour.
The governor has canceled all of his events and public schedule for tomorrow. You know, just another situation where he's probably going to be monitoring this all day long. Who knows how long this is going to go on for.
Yeah, the sun is still up. It's going to go down in less than an hour.
And not only
that changes the whole dynamic
this
as well.
investigation is ongoing. So
yes,
we
correct.
are expecting to have some sort of information from the police commissioner on Friday. So this is going to be a week of waiting and talking about it and theorizing and trying to figure out where this investigation's going, with quite possibly no result even on Friday.
Jayne Miller reported earlier this morning that what had been a fairly hard and fast deadline for police to finish their investigation and turn the results over to the state's attorney's office, who will make the final determination about who, if anybody, faces charges. She said that deadline has gotten a little more wishy-washy. It appears that the police may turn over some information on Friday, maybe not all of it. Maybe their investigation will continue past that point. So it is not the hard and fast deadline that we thought it was at one point.
And we continue to follow today's riots, a word that we have been hesitant to use, but I think at this point it's very appropriate. That started at Mondawmin Mall this afternoon. We've been with you all afternoon. We'll continue to join you in some fashion here on WBAL.com, on our mobile app, and on WBAL News Radio 1090. And before we take a break, Phil has an update.
I do. The areas of Baltimore that are currently restricted are around the Mondawmin Mall and North Avenue and Pennsylvania Avenue. But again, it's tense out there. And the video that we're watching of these firefighters that are now battling the fire at the CVS are being protected by police in riot gear.
Traffic and weather on the 5s on WBAL News Radio 1090.
Well, despite the fact that the city is cleared out in a lot of areas as far as the cars are concerned, a lot of folks still stuck on the Beltway, especially over on the west side. Inner loop still jammed up from right around the area of 295 in the Anne Arundel County line. That's going to go up toward I-70 before finally breaking free. The top side is improving, but still some backing along the inner loop from Green Spring Avenue. That'll continue out toward Delaney Valley. One of the tunnels is still jammed. That, of course, is the Harbor Tunnel, northbound direction, beginning at 97, where the Fort McHenry has certainly cleared out. The JFX is in good shape once again, and no late delays outside the Beltway on the Harrisburg, 795, or I-70. Traffic right now coming away from D.C. is in good shape, and those folks that were leaving the ballpark on 395 and Russell Street are doing well back on the Y95, whether you're heading into the Fort McHenry or over to the west side. So we certainly are settling down in Baltimore City in a lot of the areas other than the Mondawmin section, and of course at Pennsylvania and at North Avenue. This update brought to you by Jimmy John's, delivering delicious. Jimmy John's is all about fresh gourmet subs delivered right to your door. Order Jimmy John's sandwich delivery today. Yummy good, freaky fast. I'm Dave Sandler, news, traffic, and weather 24/7 on WBAL News Radio 1090.
I'm little teapot, short and stout.
Here is my handle and here is my spout.
No, Dad, like this. When I get all steamed up, then I shout, tip me over and pour me out.
This is WWE superstar Roman Reigns. The smallest moments can have the biggest impact on a child's life. Take time to be a dad today.
Visit fatherhood.gov, brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Every 20 seconds, another kid drops out of school. If we do nothing, 3.5 million kids won't receive a diploma over the next 4 years. United Way knows that kids who have a caring adult in their life are more likely to make it. And the difference between a dropout and a graduate could be you. Take the pledge to volunteer now at unitedway.org. Brought to you by United Way and the Ad Council.
Come alive with the forest. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a forest near you. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Burke Syme here, owner of Service Photo, Maryland's only full-service camera store that buys, sells, rents, and repairs all types of camera gear every day. We've got the best brands of cameras and accessories like Nikon, Canon, Fuji, and so many others, all at guaranteed low prices, along with something that no one else in Maryland can offer: expert guidance and instruction, plus continued support throughout the life of your products. Service Photo has been working with photography enthusiasts for over 60 years, and now we want to work with you. If you need anything camera or photo related, stay away from the big box stores and internet sites. Make the smart choice and talk to the local pros at Service Photo for the best items, low prices, plus expert guidance and support. We'll even buy your used cameras or accept them in trade toward new purchases. Service Photo is conveniently located at 3838 Falls Road in the Hamden neighborhood of Baltimore. For more info and directions, Google Service Photo. Call 410-235-6200 or go to servicephoto.com.
Member FDIC.
This is a special edition of Maryland's News Now. Violence in northwestern Baltimore. Here is Mary Beth Marsden on WBAL News Radio 1090.
We are covering the rioters, the looters. We've been here all afternoon. Bill Vanko, Phil Yacuboski, Mary Beth Marsden here with you, and Jim Russ has been live downtown focusing on what was happening with the game and what was happening with the roads downtown, and he joins us again with new information, right, Bill?
And if you thought it didn't make sense up to this point, Jim, I understand you got news that'll make even less sense to a lot of people.
This makes absolutely no sense, and this shows what this is all about. The rioters are now cutting the fire hoses coming out of the fire trucks at the CVS fire at Pennsylvania and North. City police are on the scene. They're going to try to take some action on this, but again, the rioters have now started to cut the fire hoses that city fire units are trying to use to put out the fire that the rioters set at the CVS at Pennsylvania and North. In addition, I just heard that Baltimore police have arrested 2 rioters at Fulton and Fremont. And also, we were talking earlier about some of the damage that occurred down along the Charles Street corridor. This is Charles Street and Center Street, not far from the Enoch Pratt Library, right across the street from the Walters Art Gallery. Mick O'Shea's, a popular bar, had at least one window smashed. right across the street, the 7-Eleven at Charles and Center had a window, at least one window smashed. And there was at least one window smashed at Trinacria, which is an Italian deli at the corner of Park and Center. So not all of this violence and not all of this destruction is going on in Northwest Baltimore. It's in the northern part of downtown Baltimore right now, guys.
Yeah, Jim, I'm wondering if you're hearing anything about Bolton Hill. I heard about the Rite Aid right there in Bolton Hill is also being attacked in some fashion.
Yeah, I think we had pictures of that from Roy earlier. I forget what the location of that is. You may hear sirens from me behind me from time to time. I'm about a block and a half from shock trauma, so some of this is not necessarily police activity. Some of it is actually just usual traffic going in and out of shock trauma.
All right, Jim Russ, as always, thank you very much for your updates from downtown.
You bet.
For the last half hour or so, we have known that the governor has had the National Guard on alert. It remains to be seen when or if the mayor will request that the status be raised from alert to deployed in the city of Baltimore. We are expecting to hear from the mayor at some point over the next half hour or so.
Yeah, the CVS pharmacy continuing to sort of be, well, literally a hot spot. I just can't believe that those fire hoses were cut, but now I'm hearing word that they're asking the media choppers to back off the scene a little bit, just kind of back away a little bit from the fire.
Take the cameras away and the people will follow.
Maybe. Mm-hmm. So that's still happening there. No, downtown, where there is a large contingent of police, particularly around Camden Yards, even though there's no ball game, still very calm, eerily so. But there are these pockets of violence and looters around town.
Yeah, they started at Mondawmin Mall and basically wandered down Pennsylvania Avenue, taking the mayhem with them as they went, picking and choosing pretty much. It appeared that if they could get into a store, they did, and the crowd certainly grew, I think, in size from what it had started as, which was a bunch of kids who had just been released from Douglas High School. And now, as we see a reporter interviewing a number of people on the street, they're not kids. They're definitely adults.
I just saw a tweet here from Councilman Nick Mosby, and he writes, "Men of Baltimore, please come to New Shiloh immediately. We must organize and get to our kids and save our communities," which may be really the best shot at stopping this.
And his wife is the state's attorney who has it's on her back after Friday. After police give her the report, she's the one that has to decide if charges will be brought against anybody involved in the case that apparently started this, although police, as you heard an hour or so ago, would not draw the connection between what's happening today and Freddie Gray, because there was no protest that got out of hand. There was just violence from the get-go today.
These are angry people or people with nothing better to do, looking for a chance to wreak havoc.
Well, we'll go back to what Eric Kowalczyk told us just about an hour or so ago. This is a group of outrageous criminals who have no regard for the safety of others. And I think that city police have said that, and then the governor has said, if you're going to do this, we're going to, we are going to arrest you. Mm-hmm. So, and I think what's disturbing for a lot of people, too, is to watch this happen, caught in the middle, who want to have a voice, who want to have a legitimate voice. Mm-hmm. I've been reading a lot of tweets this afternoon saying, from even a lot of the ministers, the pastors, saying this does everything but push the whole Freddie Gray case on the back burner. Out of the headlines.
And this is now the headline. Baltimore is a violent city.
Yes.
All those decades the city has poured into improving its image over the years, trying to make it a tourist destination, a convention destination.
Yeah.
A lot of that's going to disappear in one
seems like
nasty afternoon.
Because this is national news now. It's not just, you can't just blame The Wire now on a bad image for Baltimore City. You are listening to WBAL, WIYY, HD2 Baltimore. We are here covering the riots and the looting today in Baltimore City. Mary Beth Marsden, Phil Yacuboski, Bill Vanko, and we will stay with you throughout the night if need be. And we'll have C4 joining us as well, Brett Hollander, talking about what did not happen today at Camden Yards.
Traffic and weather on the 5s on WBAL News Radio 1090.
Two more areas still to clear out. The inner loop over on the west side, which is slow, beginning actually at the Anne Arundel County line going up toward I-70. A lot of folks still stuck on the Beltway trying to work their way up to the north to allow for a lot of additional time, because a lot of folks decided that they weren't going to use a lot of the downtown roads today because of the conditions there. They decided to use the Beltway, which wasn't a bad idea, but that's why you're stuck in traffic a little later than normal. Also seeing delays at the northbound Harbor Tunnel Thruway. That area is beginning to thin out. It's still about 5 to 10 minutes of heavy traffic beginning prior to the Steel Bridge and continuing into the Tube. Again, that's northbound at the Harbor Tunnel. Fort McHenry certainly has cleared out, and again, police are urging folks to please stay away from the areas around North Avenue between Monroe and Druid Hill, and also at the Mondalman section. Those seem to be the other areas that continue to find a lot of congestion and, of course, a lot of police activity. No game at Oriole Park at Camden Yards, so the traffic that was out there on 395 and Russell Street, there was only a few hundred people in the stadium. That looks like that's cleared out nicely, along with the Jones Falls Expressway heading in the northbound direction. This update brought to you by Subway, the new Subway Turkey Italiano melt, fresh toasted with tender, juicy turkey, robust salami, and pepperoni. These three unite under melty provolone cheese and drizzled with tangy new Subway vinaigrette. There's only one place to get the Turkey Italiano melt. That's Subway. Eat fresh. The BAL in-store weather plans for this evening. Showers possible, scattered, low 43. Tomorrow, sunny, breezy, high in the upper 60s. Right now, mostly cloudy and 56 degrees. I'm Dave Sandler. True news, traffic, and weather 24/7 on WBAL News Radio 1090.
There are a ton of social networking websites, but one stands apart for a very special reason. This one saves lives. It's MatchingDonors.com. MatchingDonors.com links organ donors with people in need of kidney and other transplants. In the U.S., 19 people die each day waiting for an organ transplant, most of them for kidneys. If you've ever considered becoming a living organ donor, or if you're someone in need of an organ transplant, visit MatchingDonors.com, home of the greatest gift of all, the gift of life, MatchingDonors.com.
The world is changing. Are you listening? Get the latest all day with breaking news, traffic, and weather 24/7. WBAL News Radio 1090.
From ABC News, Tech Trends, 2 words you don't often hear together. Personal flamethrower.
So you might be wondering why you would want something like this?
Why the company says you do, after this. One of the hottest new products seeking crowdfunding online is the MX-42 Personal Flamethrower. About the size of a large rifle, it shoots a long plume of flame.
The company, at least, is saying you can use it for practical purposes, like clearing snow, insect control.
And Gadget's Dana Wallman says the company is quick to point out it's not what you think it is.
The company is billing it as a potential tool in someone's tool shed, not just an expensive toy.
Billed as elegant and powerful, what could go wrong?
This thing has a 25-foot range.
Wallman says, amazingly, only California has outlawed it.
In 49 states, you can buy this personal flamethrower for a bargain price of $700.
However, she says, given the potential danger, other states may want to consider snuffing out potential sales. With Tech Trends, I'm Karen Chase, ABC News.
Now, continuing coverage. Violence in northwestern Baltimore. Here is Brett Hollander on WBAL News Radio 1090.
Brett Hollander alongside Phil Yacuboski on this night we'll never forget in Baltimore. And at this hour, Phil, the governor has declared a state of emergency in Maryland.
Yeah, the request of the city, he says. He's signed an executive order declaring a state of emergency. He's also activating the National Guard to address the growing violence and unrest in the city. The governor, along with the lieutenant governor, are holding a news conference at 8:30 tonight at the Maryland Emergency Management Agency. So there you have it. What many were calling on the governor to do earlier today, he is now doing, declaring a state of emergency in the city. The National Guard will be on their way in to Baltimore. And Brett, this really caps off a long day of violence and rioting. Some people are hesitant to call it rioting, but we're looking at a situation at the CVS on North Avenue and Pennsylvania Avenue where rioters smashed windows, they broke in, they stole everything. The building was set on fire, and then when the fire department showed up to put the fire out, they cut the hoses of the fire department.
It's utter chaos, and I know C4 has been watching it all day and been listening to it all day, and he joins us right now. C4, I know it's almost a heartbreaking sort of day.
It hurts. It hurts, Brett and Phil. And, as you mentioned what the governor is saying he's going to do, on my show earlier, the governor had said he would provide whatever assistance that the mayor and others needed, and has been working with the mayor going into the beginning of last week, after Freddie Gray unfortunately died a week ago. So the governor has been working with the mayor throughout this entire process. But when I was calling this a riot yesterday on a special edition of my show on Sunday, where people were taking issue with me, do you think they still take issue with me today?
I don't think so, C4. I think that one's hard to contradict. And you were, 6 years old in 1968, for those far too young to remember that, or were not alive in the late 1960s. Can you compare this in any way? It seems, from just the history books, way short of that, but it can't be too far away.
It was way short because of the breadth of it. You have to understand that while we're talking now about Pennsylvania Avenue, and by the way, I know we're saying Northwest Baltimore, but right now this is including downtown as well as Northwest Baltimore. But when you look at the areas of Baltimore stretching all the way down North Avenue, almost from east to west, going all the way down to Charles Street, which I'm talking about 1968, not just to Martin Luther King Boulevard, but all the way down to Charles Street, you're going to make that box in your area. We're talking literally probably about 100 square blocks. It really does overwhelm what's happening tonight. That doesn't mean tonight isn't significant, but it really isn't comparable.
C4, the mayor is set to speak within the hour here. What do you want to hear from our mayor on this night?
I want to hear from our mayor and our police commissioner, and hopefully the governor is communicating with them as well, that what we will do from now on is arrest anybody who is engaged in rioting. We won't shoo them away. We won't simply say that we're going to get them later. Anyone who picks up a rock, anyone who is doing anything that is riotous needs to be arrested immediately, and they will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. That's what I hear.
C4, do you think the mayor's comments on Saturday night that have taken a lot of heat, a lot of flack about giving quote-unquote protesters their space has led to something like this, knowing that the police could not respond on Saturday to any criminal acts that may have taken place?
I took issue with the mayor and others who continue to call these rioters protesters. A protester is someone who holds up a picket sign and tries to redress rights. A rioter is somebody who throws a brick, throws a stone, throws a trash can. So their whole language to me I have a problem with calling these rioters protesters. They are not protesters. And Saturday, there should have been immediate arrest. Brett, you were looking at the cameras right outside of Camden Yards. Other people, Phil, looking at the cameras. You could distinguish who was throwing a brick from who was trying not to.
Yeah.
And the arrest should have been made that night.
I think you're probably right about that. But you know what? I think the mayor was in a catch-22 because I think if she incited and started arresting people, mass chaos would have happened then. And do you risk the safety? Well, I think now it's out of control. And
but it would not have been. I don't want to argue with you, but I'm telling you, I'm upset because I'm watching my city that I represented as a legislator, that I love so much. My family has spent 4 generations in watching it on national TV go through this. Had there been action taken Saturday night, I do not think we would be watching this tonight.
Well, C4, you know what? I ask you this because you've lived here quite a long time, and again, you mentioned your family's history, which is very important to the work on a number of issues. But you know, this is not good. I mean, this is going to set the city back decades, if not more. Do you agree?
Which is why, I totally agree, which is why the action needed to be taken Saturday night. To simply suggest that you let people blow off steam or let them do whatever, it encouraged, this was all on national TV Saturday night, it encouraged others to want to do the same thing.
By the way, the governor will speak at 8:30 tonight, and you want to talk about a governor. Yes, he went through an entire session, C4, in Annapolis, which can put some serious hair on one's chest. But this is a totally different beast, a totally different animal, and who knows, maybe we'll look back at this a year from now, 4 years from now, as a landmark moment one way or another in this governor's tenure.
Well, it's not just this governor. I'm not sure if you're aware, but the new Attorney General, Loretta Lynch, is meeting with President Barack Obama on a variety of issues tonight, but we're being told that this is one of the issues they're meeting with. This is not just a governor of Maryland issue. This could be a Department of Justice issue as well.
C4, can there be healing in the coming days? I mean, in all honesty, in all sincerity, it seems so awful and so bad today in the city of Baltimore. Can there be any legitimate healing where tomorrow morning we can pick up the pieces and start looking in the future again?
Yes. The people that have been asking for legitimate redress, the people who had legislation, and we saw many bills in Annapolis this past session, some 19 or 20, to deal with police misconduct. The people that have been out front, Tessa Hill Aston from the NAACP, Reverend Jamal Bryant, those who have been calling for peace, if they are brought to the table and legitimized by the mayor, by the governor and others, and lifted up so people can see, if you do it the right way, you'll be recognized. It will delegitimize all those who are throwing bricks and bottles and trash cans.
But are they calling for peace? Because some of them seem to be saying, you know, well, we understand where the anger is coming from, but do you think in the same breath they should be saying, we understand the anger, but this is not the answer?
Yeah.
I mean, we've heard from a lot of...
Go ahead.
Go ahead. We've heard from a lot of people today saying just that, including a lot of famous Baltimoreans, Montel Williams included, Torrey Smith, that this shouldn't happen. And, you know, then there becomes a question, would these people listen anyway?
But it doesn't. You're not trying to get the rioters to listen. What you're trying to do is for the lay people, the people who are watching all of this, if you lift up the legitimate, this is what happened in 1968, if you want to get a lesson on this. In 1968, when the riots were occurring, the people who legitimately wanted to see laws change, who wanted to see appropriate things done in the aftermath of Dr. King, when they were brought to the table by mayors across this country and by governors, they then became the people that regular citizens look to. Rioters aren't going to want to stop rioting. You arrest them. But for the most of the citizens of Baltimore, they will begin looking to positive things for change as opposed to negative ones.
All right, C4, stay with us, okay?
Sure.
And, of course, we're still waiting to hear. We've just learned within the past 10 minutes that the governor has signed an executive order declaring a state of emergency and activating the National Guard to address what has happened here in the city today. He is set to hold a news conference at Maryland Emergency Management Agency again, and I believe we're on the screen here on WBAL-TV. Let's join them live. It appears we now see National Guard members on the streets. Is that possible?
Attention so that you don't have this, cropping up every day, because this is a very difficult situation to deal with.
Right, and you don't want to have to deal with it every day. With it popping up every day, something happening. So, yeah, but
that's right. And, this is the difference now is that just like, cell phone video has changed the world, social media communication has changed the world, so that it's very easy to spread the word. This all started today with, this kind of flyer that circulated about The Purge, which is the movie, and then, the trying to carry that out, trying to mimic that, which is, what would happen if all laws were lifted, that kind of thing. So, and that's that's how it started. The question is this an organized effort, a well-organized effort, or is it something that just is spontaneous? And at this point, I'm not sure which is worse. So I think that the mayor, and we're going to hear from her a little later, and the governor, we're going to hear from him a little later, I think they conferred, obviously, and they decided that this was the best course at this time. And people have been asking, why don't they activate the National Guard?
Yes.
Well, the answer is that's the last thing you want to do. But the other thing is, the even more last thing you want to do is watch any neighborhood burn. And they obviously have that situation going on in Northwest.
What we have seen on North Avenue and Pennsylvania Avenues, it's heartbreaking, Jayne.
Yeah. And Jayne, you'll have to admit, when you say it's the last thing they want to do, it's an embarrassment factor. It means you've lost control of your city when you have to call in the National Guard. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely. Sure. I mean, that's what absolutely, that you don't have a way. What it means is you don't have a solution otherwise.
There you go.
And that you can rely on. And who does? Look, we already have a very large police department in the city of Baltimore.
We are listening to a live coverage from our sister station, WBAL-TV 11, who's been doing a phenomenal job reporting this story. Jayne Miller's live near the Inner Harbor. Bill Vanko just walked in with some breaking information from police. Bill?
Yeah, we've also been listening to the police radios as they talk to one another, and we just heard a report on the police radio that they're responding back to Fulton and North Avenues, which was one of the hot spots earlier today. A number of stores broken into at that intersection. Now they say they have a report that two elderly people who owned one of the businesses on that corner, which were broken into, those people had apparently barricaded themselves in their store as the trouble went by, and now they're responding to try to get those people out because they say there are reports that they may have been severely injured. So it's the first, other than police officers being told earlier that 7 police officers had suffered serious injuries, now we're starting to hear about civilian injuries as well. We'll keep monitoring that.
But that's not something new. I mean, we heard this from Kyrie, who was on the ground near Mondawmin Mall. She said she saw a group of people just attack a person right in the middle of the street, and then it was like a mob scene, and then they just bet the guy up.
Yeah.
So it's not the first time that's happened, sadly. But yeah, it is a mess. Is C4 still with us? C4 is still there. Hello, C4.
Hey, Phil.
Again, you're watching these pictures. You're devastated by this. We know that. One of the things that the pastors are being called to do is to sort of corral everybody, and we heard the word from Jamal Bryant that everybody should go to New Shiloh Baptist Church to bring everybody there, and for parents to pick up your kids or get your kids or call your kids. Congressman Elijah Cummings alluded to that earlier. What's your thought on that? I mean, and will that work?
Looking at what I'm looking at right now, Phil, I don't believe it's going to work because the people, once again, that are doing this, I don't believe are going to listen to a Congressman Cummings, a Reverend Bryant, or the traditional people that we're talking about. I think right now what needs to happen is the people that Fred Bielfeld, a former police commissioner, used to work with, some of the people who were formerly criminals, who have now turned their lives around, we actually saw crime reduction in the city. Those people need to be the ones to reach out to these people in the streets and get them off the streets, not the elected officials or the ministers, but former criminals who now are not criminals but can reach these young people.
Do you think that'll work, though?
Yes. I just told yes, because we saw it work under Fred Bielfeld when it came to crime actually going down in the city. It worked in 1968. We brought the riots to a close. When you have people who know who the people on the corner are and can call them by name, you can actually get some of this quelled.
I just saw a picture on Twitter, C4, of a mother running out to grab her son, presuming the picture to be among those rioting, and you see her very forcefully kind of lay down the law to her son. For those parents out there whose sons are, we have to first stop C4 for a moment. We'll come right back to you. And Jim Russ is in downtown Baltimore. Jim.
Yeah, one of the hot spots right now is along North Avenue between Smallwood and Pulaski Streets. A couple of businesses there are being trashed right now. I mean, literally trashed. The Beauty Fair and Uptown Liquors. And I've been watching live shots from WBAL-TV's Captain Roy Taylor. People just walking in and out of these two businesses at will, carrying off stuff unimpeded. There's one guy that stumbled out of the liquor store with 2 cases of soda. And you got to wonder how many of those sodas are going to be used as projectiles against the police officers, or maybe who knows who else they could be used against. But in addition to that, it was striking that the liquor store is located right next to a Baptist church. It's incredible to think that these people are trashing minority-owned businesses in their own neighborhoods. This doesn't make any sense.
And, Jim, we appreciate it. We'll check back in with you soon. C4 is with us right now. Interesting observations and reporting there by Jim Russ, and see your reaction to that. And, in general, the idea of just how counterproductive it is to destroy one's own community.
But you're talking about people who are not looking for solutions or answers. That is why I was so hard on what happened Saturday night at Camden Yards, because the people that were throwing rocks and bricks at police were busting windows. And by the way, we saw civilians being injured Saturday night. It's not been reported a lot, but there were civilians being beaten up simply walking down in downtown Baltimore, getting caught up in the crowd. We just haven't heard a lot of the numbers about that. But they're not looking, Brett and Phil and everyone in the studio, they're not looking for a solution. They're only looking to destroy. That's it.
It's interesting. You know, I'm following some people nationally on Twitter, C4, which is, of course, where a lot of our information comes in. And none of this is good because of the perception that it puts the city in. In fact, I'm just reading something here now from a national correspondent who says there's nothing charming about Charm City tonight. And I feel that that's going to be something that's really going to be put the city in a situation for a while where it's going to have a very, very hard time overcoming this.
With all due respect, I really don't care about that. We're in triage right now, and in an emergency room, you deal with what's important first. The most important thing is not what Baltimore looks like. It's stopping these riots, getting these people arrested, and bringing them to justice. We'll worry about image making after we bring the city to a peaceful situation.
All right, C4. Thank you very, very much. You're going to stay on the line with us?
Yep.
All right, let's go to, is Scott available? I was out there. Scott Wykoff is available. Let's go to him. Scott, you're in the Inner Harbor?
Yeah, I am, Phil, and it might be a site of, gives an indication of how long a night's going to be all across town. Just a few moments ago, a pickup truck pulled up to the large number of police officers that are here at the Inner Harbor and started handing out box lunches, sandwiches, and drinks. And those officers in their tactical equipment that are standing right in front of the Constellation here at the Light Street Pavilion, they're having their dinner right now here on the job. So I think that gives you a sense of what type of presence they're going to have here all across town, particularly as you go to different neighborhoods where they want to try to get deployments of officers to try to avoid letting things get out. out of hand. You guys heard a little bit earlier from Jayne Miller and saw the video of what appeared to be a couple National Guard members arriving here with their backpacks and their equipment here at the Inner Harbor in their fatigues. So that gives you also a sense of the deployment now that the state of emergency has been called and the governor has given the order that the National Guard can be called in, as these deployments are all across the city. They're checking the bags that they have right now. These three young men sat down right on the corner here, looking across Calvert Street over towards the Light Street Pavilion, and that's where the police and their tactical equipment were. And then just moments ago, I started to see the officers put down the boxed lunches that have been delivered to them, and right now they're frisking the young men here. I know there's been a lot of intelligence going on all across the city today. I saw it over at Mondawmin Mall with officers out in the crowd trying to get a sense of what was going on inside these people that have been on the streets that have been rioting here in Baltimore today. Maybe a sense of intelligence here. These officers thinking that these three young men that are sitting here looking across at them, kind of camped out here, might be reporting back to someone else, reporting on what the presence is here at the Inner Harbor. Right now they continue to be frisked. This is all nonviolent. The officers... are not being violent at all. They've just approached these young men, and they're frisking them, going through their bags right now, wanting to make sure that nothing happens down here. And this is literally happening at arm's length from me. I'm watching the whole thing happen here.
Scott, do police have their guns drawn? Are you watching police with their guns drawn around the Inner Harbor?
They don't have their guns drawn. They've got the tactical helmets on, they've got the vests on, and they've got their sticks with them. Many of them also have the plastic handcuffs with them attached to their belts. But all of their weapons that I have seen so far have been holstered all across the city, except for a couple officers that I saw up at Mondawmin Mall who had their guns, their rifles tethered around their neck that they weren't holding.
Yeah.
We're continuing to watch now as the police officers are going through a bag. Right now, the three young men have sat down. They're sitting down, and they again, this is no violence on either side. The young men are being calm. The police officers are being calm, but they are encircled right now by 10 Baltimore City tactical police officers.
Sure.
And I'm trying to see what this officer is doing here.
Scott, I just want to interrupt you for a second. We just learned that the mayor will speak at 7:45. We'll have that, of course, for you live here on WBAL News Radio 1090 as part of our extended coverage of the riots here and the violence that's broken out in the city. Those three men are still detained. Do you see any other groups of people walking around there, or is it literally a ghost town?
It's really there's just an odd person here and there around the Inner Harbor. As you've noticed, and as you can hear in the background, the traffic has picked up in the last few minutes. I mean, motorcycle just coming through here. He's got a backpack on.
Right.
Some SUVs, a van coming through here. So in the last 10 or 15 minutes or so, traffic has picked up a little bit, but it is nothing like you would expect it at 7:20 something on a Monday night with the Orioles game. Right now, the police officers are having a little bit of a discussion, a calm discussion with the three young men, just wanting to make sure everything works out.
Right.
And I think right now it looks as though this is going to work out, and I don't think there's going to be a problem here. But
one thing we want to pass along to our listeners, this is for those people who are trying to get out of town due to the Oriole game. Light rail service has resumed throughout the downtown area, and the trains are moving in both directions. I also want to pass along this note from City Police. A group of violent criminals, again, this is what they are calling them, have set a car on fire at the intersection of North Avenue and Pulaski Street. So Pulaski Street and North Avenue, a car on fire there. Where that group is going, we still don't know. And they are continuing to ask drivers to avoid North Avenue in West Baltimore because people are blocking traffic, damaging property and cars. And Scott, we heard from somebody earlier who just drove nearby where you were on Mondawmin Mall, and they had rocks and bottles thrown at their car. He had his windows busted out.
Yeah, and that was what was going on when I was there, and I think that's some of the police officers who might have been injured, I think might have been in a van that was driving to deploy there, because all the windows on one side of the van had been broken with rocks, and when glass shatters like that. And I'll tell you right now, I'm by myself. I'm in one of the station vehicles, and I kept at a pretty good distance from North Avenue, just because that's what's going on right now. When cars come in there, they don't care who it is. They want to make sure that they're being told that those folks are going to do something, and it's the type of situation that you take for granted that you can drive around your city, but on a night like this is a night, and I'm a reporter, and I talk about it in the newsroom. I'll go to any neighborhood, anywhere in Baltimore. I have no problem at all at any time of day or night. But right now, folks should stay out of these areas where the problems are going on.
All right, Scott, thanks for joining us. Still stay with us. He's live at the Inner Harbor. Mary Beth?
Phil, thank you, Brett. This may be a perfect time to hear from a man of God. Baltimore, as you may know, is home to the oldest Catholic archdiocese, the very first, and Baltimore's Archbishop William Laurie joins us now to talk about what he's seeing happen to his city. Archbishop, thank you for being with us.
Glad to be with you, and what a tragic, difficult, sad night it is for our beloved city.
Are you here in town now?
I am, yes.
And I don't know if you're seeing anything firsthand or you're just getting everything from the radio and TV.
Well, certainly we're watching radio, listening to TV, but there's been things right in my immediate neighborhood. There's been a certain amount of looting and a certain amount of property destruction right on North Charles Street, which is of course unusual, but I agree for what's going on all over the city.
Can you describe what you've been seeing and how shocking it must be?
Well, I've noticed broken windows. We saw a police car on Cathedral Street that was pummeled. We saw just that kind of, and also there's kind of an acrid smell in the air. So there's things not terribly far from us here, and it's so heartbreaking.
Have you thought about what you could say to help in any way?
Oh, I mean, I've been thinking about this constantly, really ever since the Freddie Gray story has broken. A couple of things. First of all, to be sure, what happened to Freddie Gray is unacceptable and tragic. And people certainly have a right to express themselves. And secondly, there are systemic issues to be addressed. And we should address them thoroughly and swiftly and openly and honestly. But thirdly, violence is not ever the answer. Martin Luther King said it. Almost any wise public leader would say that this is not the answer. We're gathering together pastors from across the city tomorrow under the leadership of Bishop Madden to strengthen our efforts to be a source of peace and understanding in our community. And it seems to me that this is a moment for houses of worship and for churches really to step forward and to ensure that our congregations are forces for peace and understanding and reasonableness in our city in this difficult time.
Do you have any sense of fearfulness?
No, I don't. You go where the Lord sends you. I think this is a moment to be with the people you serve. It's a moment to accompany those whose lives are being disrupted. It's also a moment to accompany those who are angry in the hope of persuading them to a reasonable channeling of their anger, a constructive channeling of their anger. And so there's really not much time or room for fear. This is a time for prayer, for courage, and constructive action.
Has there been any thought to the Basilica, to your offices? Are there any concerns about the security?
Well, they are there. We are, please God, nothing will happen to them. And so far, so good. We obviously have to look ahead to the rest of the week, though, and make sure that these places are indeed safe.
Archbishop William Lori, thank you so much for joining us and talking about what you're seeing in your neighborhood. And hopefully when you come together with other bishops and other reverends and other clergy, that you can help start some healing.
With God's help, healing is exactly what we should aim for: reconciliation, building bridges, and building relationships.
Archbishop William Lori, thank you for being with us on WBAL.
Most welcome. Thank you.
Let's get to WBAL's Bill Vanko, who has been monitoring some events from the newsroom. Bill?
Yeah, we've been monitoring a lot of police radios, and now they're sending police back to Mondawmin Mall, where they say that there are reports that
we're hearing that it's been looted.
Kids have gotten into the mall where they had been prevented by a large police presence from getting in earlier today. Now apparently they have gotten inside, and they're wreaking the same kind of havoc inside there that we had seen earlier up and down Pennsylvania Avenue.
Right. Scary situation out there for folks as this happens here in our city. As you heard C4 earlier today talk about that here on WBAL News Radio 1090 just a few minutes ago, saying that his heart aches. You heard the Archbishop of Baltimore saying the same thing about what has been happening over the past few hours. We can tell you that the mayor is set to address the media in about 15 minutes. We do know that there are a number of police cars and other vehicles that have just been set on fire by the rioters who have taken to the streets. The National Guard has been called in. We are awaiting to find out just when they will be here. We're expecting the governor to talk to us sometime at around 8:30 in a news conference. And we want to update you on that fire at the CVS on North Avenue. You know, the city police had to put together a wall of police officers to allow the fire truck to get through safely. And the rioters apparently cut the fire hose to that CVS. Of course, it has been looted as well. WBAL's Brett Hollander, you've been here. The Orioles game is canceled, but I think the Orioles are probably the furthest thing from everybody's mind.
Certainly the truth tonight, Phil. It's just, it's really the last thing anyone's thinking about. And C4 rejoins us right now, and that's a small footnote to this, although it does speak to an overall disruption to normal city life on a typical spring night in Baltimore where nothing seems ordinary right now.
And Brett and Phil, that is why it is so important when things like this initially develop, you don't let them grow. And there'll be a lot of time for Monday morning quarterbacking and all this. But I'm telling you, there was a crucial element of time missed Saturday to bring some sense of closure to this through law enforcement, and it was missed. And now we're dealing with the aftermath of that.
Well, we certainly can learn from maybe those misplays. There's no question about that. But right now, as you stress, C4, the matter is at hand that this needs to come to an end at some point in the very near future if we ever hope to reopen business again in Baltimore.
And we have to find out the people that were doing this to be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. The only thing, Brett and Phil, is going to stop this, and the same thing happened in the 60s, is that the people who do this are not given any slight measure. They are prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law.
Well, I want to mention about that, C4, because when we had Captain Eric Kowalczyk on from the City Police Department earlier, he said that, and there was a lot of video Saturday of people smashing police cars, and they knew the guy who did it. They said they went out to his house today and they arrested him, and he's been charged, and he's, I believe, was taken to the city detention center. So he says one by one we'll get them. And again, the city police saying that these are lawless individuals who have no regard for human life or for human safety, for that matter. And they have to be dealt with. We're hearing reports that there are about 1,000 police officers on the streets. This is probably something we have not seen in this country for decades, I know that, for quite a long time.
Well, one of the things our police department, unfortunately, is getting criticism for, Brett and Phil, is the fact that when Eric Kowalczyk was on CNN talking about what was happening kind of at the beginning of this, he said that they're interested in protecting lives over property. And Tom Fuentes, he used to be number 2 at the FBI dealing with all types of counterterrorism and issues, said that is the most ridiculous statement he ever heard. He said you deal with property and lives. Right. It's an either-or scenario that you've got to have a policy which says we're protecting property and lives. And so there's going to be a lot of criticism about the approach law enforcement is taking to some of this.
C4, you've had Marilyn Mosby on a lot in the lead up to her election and victory eventually, and in her first few weeks and months in office here. What kind of power and kind of overall sense from the city has she been given here by the voters to make a big stand here and prosecute some of these people here today?
She has been called on to be a change agent. That's the reason she was elected over first-termer Greg Bernstein. This is a test for her. This is going to be a test, not just in reference to the 6 police officers and what happened to Freddie Gray, but is the prosecutor's office going to go to the fullest extent of prosecution to deal with these rioters, these lawbreakers?
Montel Williams has been pretty vocal. And
he's a Baltimorean.
He is. He's from Cherry Hill. In a tweet from somebody else, apparently speaking on another network, television, by